Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto uncovers his true potential. One discussion in the academy introduces Naruto to his first real friends and changes his life forever. Together, they will work hard, push each other, and unlock their true potential. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 16, Scrolls of Heaven and Earth. Alright, finally finished. Shikamaru sighed in relief. 10 hours had passed since Orochimaru's attack on Team 3. Shikamaru's teammates were still knocked out. The Nara had spent the time getting them to a clearing, taking care of them, and rigging the surrounding area with traps for any possible threat. After 3 hours of design and work, Shikamaru had set up enough traps to feel satisfied and remotely safe. He proceeded to walk to a tree. His teammates were lying down underneath it with 2 of Naruto's clones watching over them. Thank God you created all of those clones at the beginning of the exam, Naruto. The Nara noted. The 2 clones had found him to give information on a team with a heaven scroll, but they were able to help with watching over and taking care of his teammates. Oi Shikamaru. You finished all the traps and stuff? One of the clones asked. Yup. They'll keep animals and some weak teams away. And if something strong actually comes our way, they'll notify us that they are nearby. He answered with a yawn. You're tired, aren't you? You should get some sleep. The other clone suggested. Shikamaru shook his head. Sorry, but if something happened to you guys and you dispelled, then no one would be able to protect Naruto and Hinata. I'm going to stay up at least until one of them wakes up. The clone shrugged in response. They turned their attention back to Naruto and Hinata, making sure they were still okay. Shikamaru walked over to them and sat down by his unconscious teammates. How hard did Orochimaru hit you guys? Seriously. I'm surprised you both are still knocked out. Shikamaru wondered before he shook his head. I shouldn't complain. We're lucky we got out of that situation alive. Shikamaru stayed by his friends' sides, watching over them with the clones. His eyes were slowly shutting, but the Nara would open them wide the second he realized what was happening. Time passed by slowly. Around an hour later, a loud explosion occurred, alerting Shikamaru and the clones. The lazy genius left the cover of the tree and headed out into the clearing. He listened carefully for any more sounds. Damn, someone's coming. I can hear movement. And I can't hear any more traps, so they're avoiding the rest of my traps. This is bad. Shikamaru noted. He then turned to the clones, who had just walked out of the cover of the tree. Guys, do me a favor and get Naruto and Hinata out of here. Take them somewhere with some kind of cover like another tree like this or a cave if you can find one. I'll catch up with you guys there. What about you? One of the clones asked. If someone's coming, then you're going to need help. You can't take on a team by yourself. I have no intention of taking them on. Just stall them for a little bit. I got a plan. He answered. Shikamaru then turned his attention back to the clearing. Seconds later, a team from Takigakure jumped down into the clearing. They stood across from him. Shikamaru actually recognized the team. Aren't you the girl who told the proctor that she wasn't afraid of the forest? He asked. Humph. What of it? Asuna grumbled in response. She's definitely a hothead. If I egg her on, I'll definitely distract her and her team and keep them from noticing the clones getting away. Shikamaru realized. A smirk developed on his face. So what kind of monsters did you see in the forest? 'Cause I know you saw a couple in that genjutsu and I was curious if there are any more? He asked. Go fuck yourself. She hissed. Look, Asuna, he's not even taking us seriously thanks to you. As usual. Ray sighed. Fuck you too, Ray. The redhead snapped at her teammate. Oh god, this'll be too easy. The Nara was getting more confident. Takuto ignored his two bickering teammates and walked forward. Konoha Genin, we are after your scroll. I'd suggest you hand it over to avoid any conflict. He said. Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have one. My team was attacked. Both my teammates are knocked out, and we lost our scroll. Shikamaru grumbled. This was such a waste of time. Ray sighed. Takuto glared at his lanky teammate, causing him to stop complaining. The muscular Genin then turned to face Shikamaru again. Then you wouldn't mind if I check your belongings myself? I won't mess it up, just going to check to make sure you aren't lying. He stated. Oh come on, nearly all of our stuff was ruined when we were attacked. Don't mess it up anymore. Shikamaru complained. I'll be delicate. The muscular Taki Genin responded. This guy is much more intelligent and calm than his teammates. I won't be able to convince him of any bullshit. Shikamaru cursed. He took a second to look back. The clones were nowhere in sight, meaning they were able to get away without anyone noticing. He had to hide his smirk. But I guess it doesn't matter. I stalled enough. Well, I guess I can't convince you otherwise. Fine, here's the scroll. He sighed in frustration as he took out an Earth scroll, one of the fake scrolls he designed. All eyes were on the scroll. Ray was the most surprised, but his eyes narrowed in suspicion soon after the initial shock. That's it? After lying about not having it, you're just going to give it up like that? Just because we continued to ask? He questioned. Shikamaru glared at him. I wasn't kidding when I said my team was attacked. They are knocked out and are in no condition to fight. I'm not going to risk their lives in a fight just to pass this exam. Makes sense. That makes you a good teammate to have. Asuna said. She seemed to be looking at the Nara with respect. The value of your comrades is more important than this exam, indeed. You will make a good Chunin one day, Konoha Genin. Just not now. My apologies. Takuto apologized before holding out his hand. We will take the Earth Scroll and leave you and your team be. Shikamaru tossed over the scroll to the muscular Genin. The Taki Genin studied it for a second. He noticed something about it that felt off. Something looks wrong about this. He noted to himself. The Nara started to back off and made a hand sign. The scroll lit up, about to explode. Shit. Takuto cursed before dropping the scroll and making a hand sign. Earth release armor. Takuto's body was covered in stones just in time before the explosion. Shikamaru proceeded to make more hand signs before running away. Wait, he's getting away. Asuna stated. She was about to chase him, but a loud noise from the tree above caused her to stop. Ah. The entire clearing was filled with explosions. Trees were blowing up, causing different branches and limbs to hit the ground. The ground was sinking and dust was covering the entire area. Takuto made another hand sign, causing his teammates to be covered in the same armor he was wearing. The armor protected them from the dangers of the explosions, but caused them to become immobile. They waited until all of the explosions stopped, leaving them alone in the destroyed clearing. Holy shit, how did he do that? Ray gasped. He rigged this whole entire area with explosives. Takuto deadpanned, looking annoyed. I'm disappointed that none of us didn't notice any of this. Asuna was fuming. She gripped the scythe on her back tightly. We are hunting him down. He is going to pay for that. The red-headed Taki Kunoichi hurried off into the forest in the direction Shikamaru had went. Her two teammates followed behind. At first, Shikamaru had ran into the forest in a random direction to get away from the clearing and the Taki genin. After a few minutes of running, however, he ran into one of the Naruto clones. "Shikamaru! This way!" he shouted before heading off. The Nara followed the clone to an unusually large tree, even for this forest. At the base of the tree was a hole. Shikamaru and the clone entered the hole. The other Naruto clone and Shikamaru's unconscious teammates were there. "You guys got out quickly and without being noticed. Good job," he told the clones. "The boss is stealthy, so naturally we are as well," one of the clones exclaimed, puffing out his chest. "So, what did you do to get away?" "I blew up the clearing," Shikamaru answered. The clones gaped, causing the Nara to sigh. "I said I was putting up traps throughout the area. What did you think I meant by that?" "Shikamaru, you're scary," the clones stated in unison. "Heh. Really?" Shikamaru smirked. "I'll make sure Naruto knows that his clones think I'm scary when he wakes up." Conversation stopped as Shikamaru and the clones turned their attention to the unconscious teammates. They remained still for 30 minutes until the clones dispelled, alerting Shikamaru. "What?" he exclaimed as he looked around the area, trying to discover what happened to the clones. Minutes passed by before he calmed down, realizing that no one was in the area. He then realized what happened to the clones, causing him to sigh. "I guess the clones ran out of chakra. They've been around for a while, I guess, so it makes sense they'd dispel at some point." Shikamaru focused all of his attention on his teammates. His eyes never moved from either of their bodies as he sat by their side and did everything he could to help them. Another hour had passed before he saw movement. Hinata's eyes were starting to open. "Ugh!" she groaned as she tried to pull herself up. Shikamaru immediately went to her side and helped her stand up. "Looks like you decided to finally wake up," he said teasingly. A smile was on his face. It took a few seconds before Hinata was fully aware of where she was. Her eyes opened and looked around the area. "Shikamaru-kun. What happened? Where are we?" she asked almost frantically. Whoa, calm down, Hinata," Shikamaru responded. The Nara took the time to fill in the girl about what happened. He reminded her of Orochimaru's attack on their team and told her that the Sannin was able to knock out both her and Naruto. He then told her that he and two of Naruto's clones had been taking care of them while they were unconscious. Shikamaru also mentioned the team from Takigakure that attacked, and how he and the clones were able to get away from them. "How long was I knocked out?" Hinata asked after hearing Shikamaru's explanation. "I don't really know. Maybe 10, 11, 12 hours? Somewhere around there," he answered with a shrug. "I see, I'm sorry for being a burden to you," she said, looking down to the ground. "Burden? Please." Shikamaru shook his head. "We went up against a Sannin. It's a miracle we even lived. Don't be sorry about what happened. But I've been out for so long. It must have been hard being on your own for so long and having to take care of us. You must be tired." Hinata responded, still not looking up. "Nah, I'm not. Not anymore at least. I'm kind of running on pure adrenaline right now, so I doubt I'll be able to sleep until we get out of this damn forest," Shikamaru said with a sigh. "But besides, it doesn't matter in the end." The Nara interrupted Hinata before she could say anything else, slightly self-deprecating. "We all made it out okay and alive. All that's left is for Naruto to get up and we're all right." Naruto-kun. Hinata's eyes wandered over to her unconscious crush. Don't worry about him. He'll probably be up in a little bit himself. Your boyfriend will be all right. Shikamaru said teasingly, trying to get his teammate to stop being upset. His plan worked. A red blush covered her face. We aren't dating yet. She answered. The key word in that sentence was yet. Shikamaru retorted. The Hyuga's blush, somehow, got worse. Anyway, do you mind activating your Byakugan and keeping an eye on the area around of us? That way we know if anyone's coming our way. Hinata nodded and immediately activated her Byakugan. Oh, Hinata, Shikamaru spoke up. The Hyuga turned to face him. I was starting to get worried about you guys, so I'm glad you are okay. The Nara, for a second, expected another self-deprecating remark from the Hyuga. Instead, he received a bright smile from her, a smile that he returned with one of his own. Thank you for watching over us. I'll be able to help look after Naruto-kun. Hinata stated before she focused her attention on the surrounding environment, looking for any possible approaching threats. Where am I? Naruto continued to ask himself that question. The last thing he remembered was he and his friends were being attacked by Orochimaru. Now though, he was in a place that reminded him of a sewer. The Uzumaki had no idea how he got here, and had no idea how to get it. I need to get out of here and find Shikamaru and Hinata. I wonder if they are here somewhere. He wondered. The blonde continued to wander aimlessly until he came across something in the sewer, a large cage. Naruto felt himself drawn to the cage for some reason. He proceeded to walk towards it. So, my jailer decides to finally pay me a visit. A voice called out from the cage. Naruto stopped walking and looked around in confusion. Who was there? He asked. A figure appeared near the bars of the cage. Naruto's eyes widened at the sight. He was standing in front of the Kyubi no Kitsune. Kyubi. Naruto mumbled in shock. But how? You're supposed to be locked in me. How are you out of me? Idiot. The Kyubi rolled his eyes. This is your mind. This is the damp prison I've been in for the last 12 years. This is my mind? Naruto took another look at the sewer around. But this place is a dump. Fitting, isn't it? The fox remarked dryly. The blonde scowled. He seemingly lost his fear about being in the presence of the fox. He was now simply irritated and angry. You're right. It is fitting, a fitting prison for a demon that killed so many innocent lives in Konoha. He shouted. Humph. Impudent brat. You have some nerve to speak to me with that tone. I should eat you for that. Kyubi commented. Too bad you can't, 'cause you're locked up. The Uzumaki taunted, eliciting a snarl from the fox. So, Kyubi, how did I get here? The Kyubi gave an annoyed grunt before speaking. You've been using more of my chakra. You have, in the process, strengthened the connection between us. Your meditations have also helped increase this connection. Our minds are slowly becoming linked and we become connected whenever you use my chakra. When you were knocked out using my chakra, our minds were still connected. Therefore, although your body is knocked out, your mind is not. So here you are, within your mind and with me. I see. Naruto nodded in understanding. The blonde now seemed to be interested. So, does that mean the other Jinchuriki and their Biju are connected like this? Are Hani and the Gobi connected like this? Humph, it would depend on how often the Jinchuriki uses their Biju's chakra. I would assume that the armored Jinchuriki has a similar connection to Kokuo. The Kyubi answered. Kokuo? Naruto gave a look. You know him as the Gobi. The fox answered. Wait, you guys have names? The blonde questioned. Then what's yours? You're an annoying brat. You keep me locked up inside of you for the past 12 years, you come in and start shouting me, you ask me stupid questions, and you have the nerve to ask me for my name. Curse your yandame. I would tear you apart and feast on your limbs. The fox growled. Naruto didn't respond. He didn't know how you respond to such a proclamation. He remained quiet, just staring at the fox. There's more to the fox than I realized. Naruto inwardly noted. He had always associated the fox as some mindless, evil demon that terrorized Konoha one day. Now though, he can see there is a lot more depth to the fox. He can tell from the fox's words, voice, and overall attitude that he doesn't understand the fox at all. The Kyuubi, both annoyed and bored, laid down his head in an attempt to go to sleep. Naruto's mind was quiet. The Taki genin had been moving through the forest of death, trying to find Shikamaru and his team. Asuna led her team. The redhead was studying the area around her intently. We're getting closer. I can feel it. Asuna declared as she continued to move. That's what you've been saying forever. Seriously, the dude got away. Ray grumbled. Ray, I swear to God, can you go 1 minute without complaining? The kunoichi snapped. I'm serious. I can feel him nearby this time. Look, I know you can sense other people's chakras. Doesn't change the fact that you're not good at it. You're just not a good sensor at the moment. If you were, we would have found him when we first started to hunt him. The lanky Taki genin informed her. Shut up. Asuna hissed. I'm serious. I can feel it. I can feel his chakra nearby. Ray was about to make another comment, but Takuto spoke up first. How close? Very. He's in a hole by a nearby tree. I think one of his teammates is up, 'cause I sense another chakra right by him, but whatever. We'll take them on as well. Just follow me. She informed them as she hurried off. That stupid girl's wasting our time again. Ray grumbled. Ray, be quiet. Takuto ordered. You know how prideful she is. The fact that the Nara tricked us and got away so easily has hurt her pride badly. Mine too, actually. I would love to take him down. So quit your bitching and follow us. Takuto hurried after his kunoichi teammate. Ray gave an exasperated sigh before following his team further into the forest. Shikamaru, I see people coming our way. Hinata informed the Nara. Of course. Of frickin' course. He cursed. How close are they? And can you tell who they are? They're probably a minute away. And they are from Taki. She answered. Shikamaru's eyes widened. Could they be the same team from earlier? A smirk then developed on his face. Based on their reaction to the Earth Scroll, I bet they got a Heaven Scroll. And I think Hinata and I can take them. Remember that team I got away from? I think it might be them. And I think they got a Heaven Scroll we can get. Just be careful. Shikamaru advised. The Hyuga gave him a nod before the two teammates walked out of the hole. They got into a fighting position. Shortly after, the Taki genin arrived. You! We finally found you. Asuna hissed as she reached for her scythe. Were you hunting me this whole time? Really? Shikamaru asked. Naturally. You hurt her pride after. Ray mumbled with an eye roll. Asuna didn't even take the time to respond to her teammate or the Nara, she simply charged, gripping her scythe tightly. She moved quickly and swung her scythe aggressively, but Shikamaru was able to avoid. He tossed kunai in her direction, which she deflected with her scythe. Takuto charged at Hinata, holding on to his axe. The Hyuga avoided his first strike. The muscular genin then swung again. She avoided the second strike and packed away, putting distance between her and the Taki genin. "Shikamaru-kun, what did you say you did to these guys to get them so mad?" Hinata asked, noticing the Taki genin's aggression. "I'll tell you later." Shikamaru responded as he made hand signs. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Shikamaru released a series of fireballs from his mouth. Rei finally moved forward, making hand signs of his own. Water came out of the canteens he was carrying. The water formed a wall that blocked the fireballs. Of course, one of them uses waster-style ninjutsu. "It's just one of those days." Shikamaru groaned. Rei made a hand gesture, causing the water to come together and fling at the Nara in the form of a whip. Shikamaru was knocked back, taking the breath out of him. Takuto and Asuna both charged at him. Hinata took out her bow and launched arrows at the approaching Taki genin. Takuto got away in time, but Asuna could not, and an arrow punctured her shoulder. Shit. That hurt. She groaned before she turned to Hinata. She struggled to ignore the pain as she charged at her. Hinata responded by jumping onto one of the branches of the tall tree. She then proceeded to fire more arrows from the top. Asuna was able to avoid these, but Hinata kept firing. "Get off of there!" Asuna shouted as she swung her scythe in Hinata's direction. Wind style, air cutter. Asuna's scythe was able to cut through the air, releasing wind that flew towards Hinata in the form of circular blades. Hinata moved through different branches of the tree, avoiding each of the wind blades. Asuna continued to reuse her jutsu, trying to land a good hit on the hyuga. "Stand still, will ya?" she mumbled as she tried to swing again. She then noticed that she couldn't, her body was frozen. What the? Shadow possession was a success. Shikamaru noted. The redhead kunoichi realized what had happened. The Nara had connected their shadows and had paralyzed her. Let go of me," she shouted. "Not yet," Shikamaru stated with a smirk. He made a throwing gesture, which Asuna mimicked. She ended up throwing her scythe away from the battlefield completely. The redhead realized what he was doing. That scythe is very important to me," she hissed. "Yeah, my life, the lives of my teammates, and my scroll is also very important to me," Shikamaru remarked dryly. At that moment, Takuto charged at the Nara. Shikamaru tried to dodge the strike, but then realized the muscular genin never tried to strike. He was trying to fake him out. Takuto then made a real swing this time. Shikamaru was forced to use the substitution jutsu. The use of the jutsu separated his shadow from Asuna's, freeing her from his jutsu. Shikamaru appeared right next to Hinata on the same branch of the tree. Hinata started to make hand signs before releasing her water-style gunshot. She released her water bullets towards the Taki genin. Rei walked forward again and raised his right hand. The water bullets immediately changed directions. Hinata and Shikamaru, who were not expecting this, were hit hard and knocked off the tree. "Damn. That guy's got a really strong water affinity," Shikamaru noted as he was falling. An idea immediately came into his mind. "Wait, I know how to turn this situation to an advantage. Good thing I have one more left." When Shikamaru and Hinata hit the ground, a scroll fell out of one Shikamaru's pockets and rolled to the middle of the clearing. The three Taki genin noticed this instantly. "So, this is the real one," Rei noted smugly as he went over to grab it. "Heh. Nope. Naruto actually has the real one," Shikamaru noted inwardly as he made a hand sign. The scroll in Rei's hand lit up and exploded. The explosion knocked Rei back and caused him to hit another nearby tree hard head first. The lanky Taki genin was knocked out immediately. "Rei!" Asuna gasped before turning her attention to the Nara. "Holy shit! How many explosives do you got?" "That's actually a good question," Hinata wondered to herself. Asuna, we have to take this seriously. End this now. Takuto informed his teammate as he slammed his axe into the ground. The Taki Genin started to make hand signs. His red-headed teammate started to make hand signs of her own. Earth style, rising boulder. Wind style, great breakthrough. Multiple stones rose from the ground and remained in air in front of the Taki Genin. Asuna then released a blast of wind that sent the boulders flying towards Hinata and Shikamaru at rapid, different speeds. Hinata and Shikamaru struggled to avoid them all. This is getting annoying. Shikamaru groaned as he tried his best to avoid the stones. Although he could avoid the large ones, the little ones would almost always hit him. He was starting to get injured in nearly every part of this body. Hinata didn't say anything. Being more flexible than Shikamaru, she was able to avoid the stones with little problem. She was, however, tiring herself out in the process. Let's keep this up, Asuna. They are getting tired, so it won't be long. Takuto noted as he made the hand signs again. Right. Asuna agreed as she made her hand signs, ready to redo the collaborative jutsu. In Naruto's mind, the blonde and the Kyuubi no Kitsune were still facing each other, not speaking. The Uzumaki wanted to say something, but he didn't really know what to say nor how to say it. The fox seemingly did not want to speak to him at all. After spending plenty of time and thought, the blonde finally had a question. Hey Kyuubi? Naruto started. Why did you attack Konoha? The Kyuubi opened his eyes and stared at him in almost amusement. And why do you want to know? He asked out of annoyance. Well, you wouldn't wonder why someone attacked your home. Naruto asked. Humph. The Kyuubi closed his eyes again. I don't need to answer. Now just leave me. I want to sleep. No, seriously. Just answer. Naruto requested. Look, I just did a lot of thinking over here. Like it or not, we're stuck with each other. So, if we have to be together, I think we need to get along with each other. So, just let me know why. So that way I can understand. Understand? The fox scoffed. Humans fail to understand many things. The human comment only added more fire to Naruto's drive to figure out. Naruto started to compare the Kyuubi to Han, who also hated humanity. I'm being serious. Please. Just, let me try and understand. Naruto asked. The Kyuubi opened his eyes again and stared at Naruto. He studied him for what felt like hours to the blonde. Finally, the Kyuubi finally spoke. Believe me when I say this, I did not want to attack your village. It is beneath me to attack humans. He stated. Ha! What do you mean? Naruto seemed confused. Does that mean someone forced you? Humph. We'll continue this conversation some other day. But for now, you really should be getting back to your world. Your friends may need some assistance after all. The fox noted. The comment about Naruto's friends caused the blonde's eyes to widen. But how? How can I? Naruto asked. Your body has had enough time to recover. The only reason you haven't woken up is because your mind is here. Simply will yourself to leave. The Kyuubi informed him. Now get out of here. Naruto nodded in understanding. Before he left though, he spoke up one more time. Hey Kyuubi, or whatever your name is, we're going to be together for some time. Let's try and work together from now on, okay? You can have your secrets if you want, but just trust me and I'll trust you. We're stuck with each other after all, so let's try and be friends. Naruto gave the Kyuubi a thumbs up before disappearing from his mind. The Kyuubi was left alone. Friend? The Kyuubi scoffed before laying his head down on the ground. The brat is more interesting than I thought. We can't get in close. Not without taking too many hits. Hinata noted as she and Shikamaru continued to try and avoid the assault from Takuto and Asuna's collaboration jutsu. This is getting very troublesome. We need to get these two to stop. We have to hit them from range. But how? Both of our long-ranged jutsus will just cancelled out by these stupid stones. Shikamaru's mind was working hard to figure out a way to end the jutsu. Just a little more. Asuna said excitedly. Right. Takuto agreed. The two Taki genin were about to restart the jutsu when the ground underneath them started to crack. They both take a second to look at it in confusion. Takuto wondered. A figure immediately popped out from underneath the ground. Naruto had jumped out from under the ground and delivered a strong punch to Takuto's jaw. The Taki genin coughed up blood. Naruto-kun. Hinata shouted in excitement from seeing that her crush was awake. And there's how we stop it. Shikamaru noted with a smirk. Naruto immediately made hand signs and delivered his wind style, great breakthrough at Takuto in close range. The muscular Taki genin had no time to react and was sent flying backwards into another tree nearby Ray. He too was knocked unconscious. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. But I'm here now. Naruto told his teammates with a grin on his face. Kariuto Asuna was staring in disbelief. In a matter of seconds, this blonde Konoha genin had appeared, interrupted their jutsu, and knocked Takuto out before she could even react. She didn't even sense that the boy had woken up. And now that he was in front of her, she could sense the massive chakra that he had. How did I not even notice him? Asuna asked herself before she shook her head. Damn it, never mind. I really do need a lot more training. Guess I'm not ready for Chunin. Peace. She stated, holding up her right hand. Her left hand was digging into a large pocket of her black pants. She pulled out the heaven scroll of her team. Consider this a surrender. So, you're going to give us the scroll? Shikamaru asked. I'm not smart enough to pull off a 3-versus-1 fight. Besides, I may not be good friends with them, but I don't want my teammates getting injured in the crossfire. Asuna said with a sigh. The members of Team 3 nodded in understanding. Naruto took the heaven scroll Asuna offered him. The Taki kunoichi proceeded to head over to her unconscious teammates and picked them up over her shoulder. She then headed off slowly in the direction Shikamaru had tossed her scythe in. Well, I didn't have to do much, but hey, we got ourselves a heaven scroll. Naruto informed his teammates with a chuckle. Hinata responded by rushing over to his side and asking questions. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? You're not hurt or anything. How long have you been awake for? Hinata, relax. He was just in the same position you were. Shikamaru said with a chuckle as he walked towards his teammates. Hey Naruto, you alright now after your sleep? Naruto gave a foxy grin in response. Of course, I am Databeo. He answered. How did you get into the earth, by the way? I wasn't aware you dug any holes. The Nara questioned. Oh that? I guess you guys have never seen my earth style, headhunter jutsu. Naruto said with a grin. Oh. That jutsu Han-sama gave you? Hinata asked. Yup. I was able to get underneath them and surprise them easily. The blonde nodded in affirmation. Now, what happened while I was knocked out, you guys? Let's just get out of this damn forest. I think I'm going to go insane if we stay in here for any longer. Shikamaru stated. I'll answer when we get out. Yeah. I understand. Naruto laughed. Alright, so let's get out of here. The 3 members of Team 3 hurried off. Now that all 3 members were awake and that they had both scrolls, they could get out of the forest and complete their second exam. Hey guys! There's the tower. Naruto shouted. It didn't take long before Team 3 had found the tower at the center of the forest. Naruto and Hinata stared at the tower with excitement and relief. Shikamaru had similar feelings, but his adrenaline had officially stopped working at this point. "Alright, let's go finish the exam now," Naruto noted excitedly. Thud. Shikamaru passed out on the floor and drifted off to sleep. Naruto and Hinata looked at their friend in surprise before laughing to themselves. Typical Shikamaru, Naruto noted between laughs. True, but he earned it. After taking care of us for so long, Hinata said with a smile. Yeah, I know. The blonde nodded in agreement before he picked up the sleeping Nara and placed him on his back. Let's get inside the tower and get him to a nice bed. The members of Team 3 continued from there, finishing their final short moments in the Forest of Death. For them, the second part of the Chunin exams was complete. Chapter 17, Second Exam Complete. Iruka-sensei? Naruto mumbled in surprise. He and Hinata were both equally confused. After walking into the tower and realizing they needed to open both the Heaven and Earth Scroll, their academy instructor, Umino Iruka, appeared in front of them in a cloud of smoke. The man looked at his two former students, a proud smile on his face. It's been a while, hasn't it? He joked. I'm here to let you guys know that you all passed the second exam. Hell yeah. Naruto cheered as he jumped up and down. Shikamaru, who was still asleep on Naruto's back, was starting to mumble in his sleep about an earthquake. This caused Naruto to stop jumping and caused Hinata to giggle. Typical. I haven't seen him in months since you all graduated, and the first time I see him he is asleep. This feels nostalgic, Iruka said with a sigh. Shikamaru-kun hasn't changed much, Iruka-sensei. Hinata elaborated as she continued to giggle. I can see, the academy instructor said with another sigh. He then looked back at the awake members of Team 3 with a smile. I am proud of you all. I knew you would do great in your exam. Naruto and Hinata returned his smile with a large smile of their own. Both of their smiles were filled with pride and happiness. It was evident to Iruka, who merely chuckled. I'd love to keep chatting with you guys, but I think you all might want to get to a room and let Shikamaru sleep on a bed. All of you genin teams will be staying in rooms down that hallway while you wait for the time limit to end. You can take any bedroom that isn't already used, Iruka stated as he pointed to a hallway to the left of the shinobi. We all need to talk sometime soon. I'll treat you guys to ramen when the exam is over. Thank you. Hinata bowed to her former sensei. I'd love that databayo, Naruto stated excitedly. Thanks, Iruka-sensei. Iruka watched as the two genin rushed off down the hallway. The Chunin chuckled to himself. They don't have to call me Iruka-sensei anymore. They aren't my students. And they'll probably be on my level soon too, he noted, still chuckling. We really do need to get ramen again. I missed you all, my precious students. The bedrooms were all plain, simple rooms. There were 3 beds, one for each member of a genin team, along with a table and floor mats to the side of it. There was also a mini kitchen in the corner of the room. The room was simple but comfortable. Naruto laid Shikamaru on one of the beds in the room and covered him in a blanket. He and Hinata then walked out of the room. The two walked down the hallway in comfortable silence until they were interrupted by a loud, familiar voice. I was wondering when you guys would get here. The two genin turned around and saw Anko walking towards them. Their Jonin sensei had a wide grin on her face. Anko sensei, what are you doing here? Naruto asked as he and Hinata walked up to her. All of the Jonin senseis have been cooped up in this tower since the start of the second exam. We've been waiting for you brats to finish this exam already, she answered as her hands went towards her two students and ruffled their hair. An irritated groan came from Naruto's mouth and a gasp from Hinata's, which caused Anko to laugh. Good to have you guys here and see that you all passed. Where's Shikamaru? The two genin pulled themselves away from their sensei before Naruto answered, asleep. We laid him on the bed in our room. Ha! Typical lazy ass. I'll harass him when he wakes up. Anko laughed. So spill the dirt. How was the exam? You guys did finish pretty early, you know? It's only the second day after all. Hinata was about to answer when she remembered something that happened early in the exam. Naruto remembered it as well. They needed to let their sensei know. Anko-sensei, we need to talk. Hinata said seriously. Okay? What's with all the doom and gloom? Anko asked with confusion. During the exam, we were attacked. Naruto answered. And? Anko asked, still confused about what was so serious. That's kind of what's supposed to happen, you know? Genin attacking genin and shit. None of you guys seem really injured or anything either. We weren't attacked by another genin. It was Orochimaru. Hinata clarified. All confusion left Anko's face. The Tokubetsu Jonin's mouth fell wide open as she openly gaped in front of her students. Her eyes were wide. Wide. The scene could have been enough to make anyone, especially her students, laugh. Then, excuse me? The shock on her face was converted to rage and anger. Her mouth turned to an angry scowl and her eyes were narrowed in rage. The snake summoner was also unconsciously releasing killing intent. The amount of rage projected from her was frightening to her students. He attacked us at the beginning of the exam. He knocked Hinata and me unconscious. The exam proctor apparently came and confronted him. If she didn't, Shikamaru thinks we would have probably been killed. Naruto answered with a slight stutter due to his sensei's killing intent. The killing intent seemingly doubled along with Anko's rage. Her hands were clenched into fists. The tension in the room was nearly suffocating to the genin. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to fucking kill him. Anko screamed in her head. Her killing intent was still increasing. Come at me all you want, try and make my life worse, but don't you dare go after my students. You will regret this, you piece of shit traitor. You will fucking dash. Anko-sensei? Anko was snapped out of her thoughts. Her students were not used to seeing her like this, and therefore, were quite scared of her right now. The Tokubetsu Jonin frowned at the sight of them, and did her best to calm down. After her rage had calmed, another thought entered her mind. Anko's eyes widened again, but this time in fear. He wouldn't, no. She immediately grabbed Naruto by the neck and pulled his jumpsuit's collar down slightly. All she saw was bare skin. Before he could say anything, she pushed him away and grabbed Hinata's neck. She studied it and saw only bare skin too. She released a sigh of relief. Thank God, they weren't marked, unless... Anko-sensei, what the dash? Does Shikamaru have a strange mark on his neck? Anko interrupted Naruto's sentence. The two genin stared at their sensei in confusion. At one moment, she was filled with rage and genuinely terrifying. Now, she looked frantic and scared. No. I didn't see anything. Hinata was the one to answer. She noticed Anko take another sigh of relief. Anko-sensei, are you okay? Yeah. I'm fine. I'm sorry about all of that. She apologized. I think we need to have a talk. All of us. Can you guys take me to Shikamaru? I'll wake him up. Both Naruto and Hinata nodded. The three shinobi walked down the hallway again in silence. Anko seemed in deep thought. Naruto and Hinata stared at their sensei. Although they were relieved to see her no longer enraged, they were still concerned. The three walked inside Team 3's room. Shikamaru was still asleep. Anko walked over to the Nara, put her hand on his shoulder, and shook him gently. Ugh, Mom, I've already graduated the academy. I don't need to wake up early for it. He grumbled in resistance. The snake summoner had a slight smile on her face, but she continued to push him. Not your mother. Sorry, but we need to talk. Around 10 minutes passed before Shikamaru got himself out of bed and was awake enough to carry a conversation. What is so important that we need to talk about now? Shikamaru asked with a yawn. Orochimaru. His sensei answered. Shikamaru's eyes widened and he made a conscious effort to wake himself up further. He knew he had to take this conversation seriously. Naruto told me you guys were attacked by him. The Tokubetsu Jonin started. I know that bastard loves to hear himself talk. What did he say to you all? Did he mention anything about me? He said that he was your sensei and that he wanted to see what your students could do in a fight. Shikamaru answered. I see. Well, he wasn't lying. Back before he betrayed Konoha, Orochimaru was my sensei. Anko stated with a sigh. Since that bastard has appeared again in my life and has now gone after you guys, I'd like to tell you my story with him. It'll probably explain a few things about myself and him. If anything, I'd like you guys to know why I may be a raging bitch in the next few days if anything happens involving him. A moment of silence passed. Anko looked uncomfortable, as if she didn't want to talk about this, but she felt that she needed to. Eventually, she finally found the strength to speak against her discomfort. Orochimaru taking a genin team was a big deal. The Sannin were considered the best trio of ninjas ever assembled, and they were only behind the Hokage in strength. Furthermore, the village just saw Jiraiya train a genin team that was becoming a legend of their own. So when it was announced that Orochimaru, who was considered the strongest of the Sannin, was going to be my sensei, I was fucking excited. I just knew I was going to become a legendary shinobi. My teammates thought so too. Anko started. Her eyes instinctively started to water when she mentioned her teammates, but she shook her head and continued. We started out like a normal team. Basic missions and training. All that normal shit that every team goes through. Then, my teammates disappeared. No trace. Anko released a deep sigh, trying to fight back her tears again. She did so by shaking her head once more. So, it was just me and Orochimaru. He took me up as his apprentice. This is when things really started to change. His teaching and his mannerisms became crueler. He was never the most emotional, warm-hearted person, but he was just getting downright cold. But I had built up so much respect for him and the legacy that he had created for himself that I didn't care about any of the changes. It made me blind to who he was becoming, and the things he was doing. This is when Orochimaru began doing the research and experiments he is infamous for. And I actually helped him do some of the research. Anko said, her voice now filled with shame. She couldn't hold back, tears were starting to come down her face. Not like I knew what he was really doing, but I still helped. I finally realized the true horror of his experiments when he started doing them on me. Anko pulled down the collar of her trench coat and showed off her neck. A black seal was noticeable to her genin students. Naruto noticed something. Was that what Anko-sensei was checking for earlier? If we had that thing? Naruto wondered. This is a curse seal, Orochimaru's cursed seal of heaven. This seal provides those with it with extra chakra and power, but at a cost. The chakra given is Orochimaru's. His essence lives inside this damn seal. This essence taints the mind of those who have the seal, makes you more violent and power-hungry. And the survival rate of receiving this seal is low. Anko looked down as her crying seemingly worsened. Her students walked forward to her and hugged her. I was the first one to survive receiving this seal. Everyone else he tried on had died, including my genin teammates. Anko was now starting to shake, which only caused her students to tighten their hug. A few seconds of silence passed with the only noise being Anko's sobbing. Finally, she stopped shaking and crying long enough to continue. That piece of shit left Konoha soon after. The rest is history. She stated. That man has been hell in my life, and it seems he's returned and set his eyes on you. I'm sorry about getting you all involved with him. Sorry? Don't be sorry, Anko-sensei. Naruto answered. You didn't do anything at all. Orochimaru's a fucked up case, but that doesn't mean you are responsible for it. Naruto-kun's right. Don't feel responsible for us getting attacked. Hinata answered with determination. She, like her sensei, was also crying. Anko-sensei, I knew you were a strong ninja, but knowing that you've overcome Orochimaru, you are a role model. You are the strongest kunoichi I've ever met. But don't try and argue, Anko-sensei. Shikamaru interrupted. A sincere smile was on his face. We wouldn't lie about anything. Nothing is your fault. And you are one of the strongest ninjas Konoha has ever had. We've always thought that, and now we know that for sure. Aha. Naruto agreed. Orochimaru will pay for all this shit. We'll be there by your side to make sure you get the job. I'll make sure that bastard gets what he deserves for all that shit. Anko's emotions were running hectic. Tears were running down her face again. This time, however, they were tears of happiness. They were from the relief that her team was okay. They were from joy from hearing their kind words and praise. They were from feeling content, from belonging to a family, Team 3. Anko finally returned the group hug. The team stayed like this for a few more moments before Anko broke the hug as she rubbed away her tears. Okay, enough of this sappy, mushy stuff. I don't think my emotions can take any more of this. You guys are too much for me, I swear. She said jokingly. The happiness in her tone of voice was evident to anyone. Now, how about you all fill me on the rest of the exam? Like how you got your scroll. Conversation turned to normal again as Anko's genin informed her of the Taki genin and Shikamaru's work in looking after Naruto. The Tokubetsu Jonin was surprised and impressed with the Nara's strategies and the overall skill of her genin. Well, you guys did good. I'm very impressed with you all. Anko said when they finished. She started to walk towards the door. Anyway, I'll let you all relax now. Just wanted to catch up and see how you are all doing. If you want to find me, us Jonin instructors have our own hallway. The mention of other Jonin instructors reminded Naruto of something. Oh, that reminds me. Naruto said in realization. He then rushed over to the door and ran out. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to go pay someone a visit. The other members of Team 3 watched the blonde storm out. Does he even know where he's going? Hinata asked. Probably not. Shikamaru sighed. Heh. Hope the brat enjoys searching through this maze of a tower. Anko chuckled. Anko was right, the tower was a maze. Naruto ran through hallway after hallway, trying to find a certain person. After nearly 2 hours of searching and irritation, the Uzumaki finally found a large, open room that looked like an auditorium. Inside the room was the person Naruto was looking for, a familiar armored shinobi. The man had a pen in his hand and was staring intently at a piece of paper. He didn't notice the Uzumaki enter. "Hani!" Naruto shouted as he ran towards him. The armored shinobi finally looked up just in time to see the blonde run up to him and deliver a tackling hug to him. The man was shocked for a second before he returned the hug, a smile on his face. Naruto. It's good to see you again. I see you passed the exam. Han stated. His voice had an unusual happy edge to it. Of course, I passed Databeo. The blonde answered proudly. He then let go of Han and gave him a wide smile. I've been looking for you for the past 2 hours. I didn't know you were sending your team to the exam. It was a slightly last-minute decision. The Tsuchikage decided that he wanted to send a team or two to the exam this year, and I volunteered my team. Han answered. Well, I'm glad you did. It's great to see you again. Naruto stated excitedly. How've you been? The Gobi Jinchuriki shrugged. I can't complain. IWA is the same as always, but things have been relatively peaceful. Especially since I got to Konoha. I really like it here. It's very quiet and calm. Naruto nodded in agreement. Konoha's great. He laughed. What have you been doing here? You should have visited me. I haven't been here for too long, Naruto. Besides, I don't know where you live in the village. The IWA Jonin answered. No excuses. Han actually chuckled a little when he saw the blonde pout. What I have done so far is that I've been to your hot springs. And I've been working on a couple of illustrations. Han pointed to the paper in front of him. The paper had a depiction of a fight between two shinobi in a forest. It was a detailed drawing and looked very realistic. Your village is very good for inspiration. You draw? Naruto asked, still studying the paper. This is great. It's only a small hobby, but thanks. Han responded nonchalantly. That's enough about me though. How have you been doing? How's your training? The two Jinchuriki continued to discuss Naruto's training. The Uzumaki brought up his mastery of the headhunter jutsu to his ability to channel a portion of the Kyuubi's chakra. They then continued to catch up, discussing the events in their life. So, how much longer do you think it'll take before your team gets here? Naruto asked. They've been here. Han answered. What? They beat us? Naruto shouted, pouting slightly. The Gobi Jinchuriki chuckled at Naruto's facial expression. Correct. They've been here since the first day. I believe they were the first team to arrive. The second being a team from Suna, and the third being your team. The Uzumaki grumbled to himself about getting beaten before he sighed and accepted it. He was happy to hear that Kuratsuchi and Roto had passed after all. You and your team should pay them a visit, by the way. I'm sure they would enjoy it. Han commented. Really? Naruto asked. Kuratsuchi and Roto would be. The Jonin amended. That sound about right. Risho's too much of a jackass to care about us. Naruto snickered. Anyway, yeah, I'm sure Hinata and Shikamaru would love to visit them. We'll go say hi to them now. With that notion in head, Naruto started to walk off. I'll talk to you later, Han-ni. The blonde stated before his walking turned to running. Han bid him farewell before turning back to his drawing. He had a smile on his face the rest of the time as he continued to work on it. Lazy ass. You and your team passed. Kuratsuchi stated excitedly. Shikamaru sighed in frustration. Naruto came running back to the room, interrupted his sleep, and dragged him and Hinata to the room a few doors down to hang out with the team from IWA. Normally this wouldn't be much of an issue. Shikamaru, however, was running on very little sleep, and he was extremely tired. He was very irritated and things were more troublesome than usual. Don't call me that. The Nara said with a groan. I call anyone whatever the hell I want to call them. Kuratsuchi retorted with a grin. You're lazy ass. Just like my Gramps is Gramps. It's a sign of affection. It's not a bad thing. She calls me dumbass sometimes and I don't get offended. Roto stated with a chuckle. He then turned to Hinata. A slight blush appeared on his face. I'm glad you passed Hinata-chan. Hinata-chan? Naruto's eyes focused on Roto in a glare. Thank you. I'm glad you guys passed as well. Hinata said back. Humph. Risho groaned. The Kurigane got up from sitting down on his bed and left the room immediately, closing the door loudly. All eyes turned to it. The hell's up his butt? Naruto asked. I knew he doesn't like us, but I figured he'd just go to sleep or ignore us. He's been like that ever since he got to Konoha, more aggressive, more angry, and more of a dick than usual. And that says something. Roto said with a sigh. Anyway, you guys are just in time. Kuratsuchi stated as she reached into her weapons pouch on her pants. Instead of pulling out a weapon, she pulled out a deck of cards. We were going to play a game. But since Risho just bailed on us, we can play with you guys. I'm game. Naruto said excitedly. Sure. Hinata agreed. A card game? Nah. Sorry. I'm going back to our room and sleeping. Shikamaru said dismissively. What? The room chorused, Naruto and Kuratsuchi being the loudest. Come on, Shikamaru. Have a little fun. The Uzumaki encouraged with his traditional grin. We just want to have fun and talk a little. Catch up. Do what friends do. Kuratsuchi added, a grin of her own on her face. I'm going to sleep. Shikamaru said again as he walked to the door. Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes. You always sleep. Lazy ass. I haven't all day today. I'm getting sleep. He answered as he opened the door. Just play one game. Come on. If you don't, I'll get revenge on you somehow. The IWA Kunoichi threatened. Her voice was low and intimidating to the other genin in the room. The Nara responded by walking out of the door and closing it. The four shinobi in the room stared at the door for a second before groaning. I just wanted to play a little and see how he's doing, humph. Kuratsuchi scoffed in irritation. He's going to regret this. I'll get him back. The other three shinobi were staring at the IWA Kunoichi with a trace of fear in their eyes. What's she going to do? Hinata whispered to Roto, her stutter returning slightly. I don't know. Nothing lethal at least. But Kuratsuchi gets scary when she's irritated, so I don't want to be Shikamaru right now. He responded with a shudder. Well, screw him for now. Kuratsuchi spoke up, ending the conversation. She then proceeded to shuffle the cards. Well, let's forget about him. Who's ready for a game? The four genin proceeded to play a variety of card games. They chatted about various topics as they played, ranging from how they passed the second exam to things going on their village. Naruto and Hinata learned that Roto has a sister who just got married a week before the games. They also learned that Kuratsuchi helped teach a class at the Iwagakure Ninja Academy, and that she has a soft spot for kids. In turn, the two IWA shinobi learned things about Naruto and Hinata. The four ninja continued to play different card games and bond, having fun while doing it. Hours passed before Roto ended up getting tired. He headed over to his bed and fell asleep. Soon after, Hinata got tired and left the room to go get sleep of her own. Naruto and Kuratsuchi were alone, playing cards with each other. Conversation got less frequent and a slight tension filled the room. Kuratsuchi finally broke the tension with a question she had been meaning to ask the blonde. Naruto, has anyone told you look like the yellow flash? She asked as she drew another card. Ha! Like the Yondaime Hokage? Naruto asked in clarification as he put a card down on the table. No. No one has. Really? The IWA Kunoichi turned her attention away from the cards and towards Naruto. She studied his face before speaking again. Because you look like an identical copy of him. I swear, he has to be related to you somehow. Like your dad or your uncle or something. Naruto seemed to be in deep thought before he shook his head. Nah, I'm just an orphan. I'm sure I would have been told if I was related to the Yondaime. Hell, someone would have probably adopted me if I was. He responded with a sigh. He got a dreamy look in his eyes. Would be kinda cool if I was though. He's been my idol for some time, so it would be kinda funny if he was my uncle or something like that. Ha, kinda cool, huh? Kuratsuchi's tone of voice became cold. A scowl developed on her face. Sure. Being related to a mass murderer would be kinda cool to some people, I guess. Naruto glared at her, a scowl developing on his face. Don't say that about him. The Yondaime was a great guy and one of Konoha's greatest heroes. He was no mass murderer. He responded. Did you study the Third Shinobi World War at all? Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes. Your great hero slaughtered hundreds of IWA shinobi. So many lives lost in a flash, that is no hero. I call it as it is, he's a murderer. He didn't kill anyone for no reason. Everything he did was to protect Konoha. The Uzumaki retorted angrily. If he didn't do what he did, then many Konoha ninjas would have died. Humph. The way you're talking makes it sound like IWA was some giant monster nation. Like as if we started the war. The IWA Kunoichi was getting angry as well. Well, Konoha didn't start the war. Naruto responded. And neither did IWA. Kuratsuchi hissed back. The two genin said nothing else. Tension filled the room. Naruto spent the entire team thinking. At first, he was angry at Kuratsuchi and IWA. Then, his thoughts turned deeper. Kuratsuchi was correct. The Yondaime Hokage did kill hundreds of IWA shinobi during the war. But it was also true that he was killing for Konoha, and to make sure that the village and its people were safe. He knew that Konoha did not cause nor want the war. IWA, however, didn't want or cause the war either. Neither side wanted it, and neither side wanted their people to die. Slowly, Naruto's anger turned to sadness. His rage-filled face turned to a frown, which soon turned to a neutral, thoughtful face. This is what war causes, huh? Naruto spoke up, alerting Kuratsuchi. It just causes many people to die. It causes suffering. It creates hate. It causes good people to do bad things. Kuratsuchi was staring at Naruto in surprise, wondering where this was coming from. He returned her stare, his eyes filled with determination. When I am Hokage, I will make sure there is no more war. That way no one has to suffer around the world. That is my promise. He stated with determination. Kuratsuchi was now gaping at the blonde. She had never heard such a declaration from someone. From her first impression of Naruto, she would have never expected something like this from him. You think that that's possible? She asked. It's only impossible if you don't try. I really think it is. If we try, if everyone tries, we can create a world of peace. Naruto affirmed his newfound belief. Something about his words appealed to Kuratsuchi. It made sense in her head. She agreed with his ideal for peace, and she entertained the idea that he could create such a world. If he thinks he can, then so can I. She told herself, a smile appearing on her face. Then, when I am Tsuchikage, I will help create this world without a war, a world filled with peace. The IWA Kunoichi said. Naruto turned to Kuratsuchi. He grinned in response. It's a promise then. He stated as he held out his fist. A promise that'll become a reality. She agreed as the two bumped fists. The two genin were done with card games. After their conversation, they bid each other goodnight and headed off to bed. The two Kagetabi went to sleep with big ideals and plans for the future. Day 3 in the tower began early in the morning for Mitarashi Anko. A loud knock on the door in her room woke her up. The knocking continued, forcing her out of bed. The sleepy Tokubetsu Jonin walked towards the door at a sluggish pace. Who is it? She asked with a yawn as she opened the door and saw the second exam proctor. She then blinked. Kurenai? Anko, we need to talk. The red-eyed woman stated. The snake summoner led her friend into her room. The two kunoichi sat down on Enko's bed. I've been busy with the Hokage recently, so I haven't gotten the chance to let you know. But you need to know this. Kurenai started. Orochimaru dash. He's here and he attacked my team. I know already. She interrupted. It was Kurenai's turn to blink in surprise. You know? Yup. My brats got to the tower yesterday and told me. We had a long conversation about it. Anko noted. So, your team is okay then? Kurenai asked, sighing in relief. Yup. They got here safely, thanks to you. If you didn't interfere, then that snake might have gotten the change to kill them. Anko stated. She gave her friend a smile and a hug before continuing. Guess I owe you one. Thank you so much for saving them, Kurenai. Kurenai returned the hug and gave a smile of her own. You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad that they're okay. The two broke the hug and sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Anko finally broke it with a sigh, her face becoming more serious. What did the Hokage say about any of this? Do we have any idea what the snake is here for? She questioned. The Genjutsu specialist shook her head. We don't know what he's after. It has something to do with the Chunin exams though. He threatened me in the forest when I confronted him that if we cancelled them for any reason, he would destroy the village. Anko's eyes narrowed in suspicion. The Hokage isn't cancelling them. He's tightening the security in the village and any area associated with the exams. The ANBU are also scanning Konoha as we speak, and will be continuing to do so until the exams are over. We're hoping to catch Orochimaru before he goes through with whatever he's planning. Naturally. Anko nodded in understanding. How are you doing with all of this? The red-eyed Jonin asked. Anko sighed. I mean, I'm okay, I guess. I'm just confused about why he's back now. Why now? What does that snake have planned? Her hand then clenched into a fist. And I am still pissed about him attacking my team. I highly doubt that was part of his plans to attack them. He just did it to fuck with me. And I'm not going to let him get away with that. We aren't. Kurenai corrected. I don't know what Orochimaru has planned, but coming to Konoha will prove to be a mistake. We are going to finally get rid of that traitor while he's here. He will be put to justice. Anko nodded in agreement. Anyway, while we wait for him to come out, let's enjoy ourselves. Kurenai said as she got off the bed and held out her hand. Come on. Let's go get ourselves a drink. Anko nearly choked as she took her friend's hand and got out of bed. You are going to invite me to get a drink? Are you finally gonna stop being a prude and actually drink? No. But I think you may need some sake. Her friend informed her. You do as well. You're always so stiff and stuff. You need something to lighten you up a little. Her friend pointed out to her with a playful smirk. Perhaps if you did, maybe you'll get lucky with a suma. Anko. The Tokubetsu Jonin laughed as she watched her normally calm, serious friend blush in embarrassment. The two friends soon walked out of the room and headed off to get something to drink. So this is day 3, right? Naruto asked his teammates. Not that much longer until the exam ends, huh? Not really. Just 2 more days. Shikamaru answered. I'm sure the team's still in the forest and starting to get a little uneasy. They don't have too much time to get their scrolls. Probably. Hinata nodded in agreement. Good thing we don't have to worry about that though. Heh. Good thing indeed. Naruto gave his teammates a grin. Anyway, let's kill the day with Han's team again. Another set of card games? Count me out. Shikamaru yawned. You know, Kuratsuchi will probably do something to you if you refuse to play again. She was pissed that you left last night, The blonde informed him. What's the worst she could do? The Nara answered with a shrug. I think it'd be fun to go visit them again. It was fun last night, Hinata said, ignoring her lazy friend. 2 votes against 1. We win, Naruto said smugly before grabbing Shikamaru's hand and pulled him off the bed, causing him to groan. Now let's head on out. Naruto and Hinata then hurried out of the room, dragging Shikamaru with them. As they exited their room, they noticed another team of Genin in the hallway. The team turned their attention to the members of Team 3. The team was another team from Konoha. The first and most apparent member of the team was a boy with very thick eyebrows wearing all green spandex with orange leg warmers. He wore a red forehead protector as a belt, and he had a bowl-cut styled hair. The second member of the team was a girl with brown hair that was put in 2 buns. She wore a pink sleeveless blouse, dark green pants, and blue sandals. The final member was a boy with long black hair that wore it in a ponytail. He wore a khaki shirt, dark brown shorts, blue sandals, and he had bandages over his right arm and right leg. Ah. We were not the first team from Konoha to pass. It seems we need more training. I'll make sure to do another 20 laps around the village in addition to my usual training, the boy wearing green spandex stated. He then rushed forward to Naruto, who was the closest member of Team 3 to him. It's a pleasure to meet you 3, my youthful competition. Eh? Naruto gave him a strange look out of confusion. Shikamaru emulated it. May I have your name? He asked, getting in Naruto's face. The blonde thought he could see fire coming out of his eyes. Uzumaki Naruto? Naruto answered in confusion. Wait a second. You're Rock Lee, aren't you? You're that guy Sasuke wanted to know information about. Shikamaru remembered from before the first exam. The boy turned towards Shikamaru and nodded. Yes, my name is Rock Lee. And these are my youthful teammates, Tenten and Hyuga Niji. Hey. The girl, Tenten, greeted them with a wave. Hyuga? Naruto and Shikamaru recognized the name. Their eyes darted back and forth between Hinata and the other boy, Niji. Their teammate was staring at the ground while Niji was glaring at her. Hinata-sama, it seems you have passed the second exam, Niji said after a period of prolonged silence. Why yes, Niji-ni-san. Hinata answered, her stutter returning. Ni-san? Naruto seemed confused. He knew Hinata had a younger sister, but she made no mention of an older brother. Humph. For your team to have finished the exam so fast, your teammates must be really something. Niji's eyes then turned to study Naruto and Shikamaru. He then focused his attention to Shikamaru. You're a Nara, aren't you? Yeah. The name's Nara Shikamaru. What of it? He asked. You must be a genius even amongst your clan to be able to drag these 2 failures here this fast. I must say, I can't wait to test my strength against you, the Hyuga stated, a smug grin on his face. Niji. Tenten spoke up in annoyance. She already could tell where this conversation was going. Hey. I am no failure and neither is Hinata-chan. Who the hell do you think you are? Naruto shouted at the boy loudly. No, the more appropriate question is who do you think you are? Niji returned Naruto's question. I recognize you. You are the boy that failed the graduation exam at the academy twice. Just because you finally passed the exam does not change who you are. Once a failure, always a failure. But that is just your opinion, Niji. Lee stated. Anything can be changed if you work hard enough. Any failure can become a genius of hard work if they put forth the right effort. Ugh. This is happening again. Tenten groaned, not wanting to hear the argument between her 2 teammates. This was clearly not something new to her. Try as hard as you may, we cannot change who we are. No one can change fate. Niji answered dismissively. Isn't that right, Hinata-sama? And no. Hinata shook her head. You may have been born in the main branch of the Hyuga clan, but you will always be the weak, stuttering girl you've always been. The older Hyuga continued to speak, ignoring her answer. Believe whatever the hell you want, but don't talk down to Hinata-chan. Or anyone for that matter. Naruto shouted at him. Fate doesn't exist, and if it does, then it can be changed if you put your mind to it. YOSH. Lee rushed back over to Naruto, his eyes seemingly gleaming with excitement. You are a genius of hard work as well? How very youthful. I hope we get the chance to spar at some point, Naruto-kun. Ahem. Tenten coughed loudly, causing everyone to stare at her. I'm sorry to break up this discussion on hard work and fate and stuff, but my team just finished the second exam, and I feel like we should finally get a room and lay down. Niji nodded in agreement and, after giving one more glare to Hinata, walked down the hallway. Lee gave an elaborate bow to Team 3 before following behind his teammate. I'm sorry about them. They're eccentric and very firm in their beliefs. Tenten apologized to the members of Team 3. It was nice to meet you all. Congrats on passing as well. The Kunoichi then ran back down the hallway, following her teammates. Team 3 was left alone again. So that happened. Shikamaru finally spoke up. Lee's cool. A little strange. Naruto shivered at the way Lee's eyes lit up and his enthusiasm for a second. He then grinned before he continued. But hey, the guy's cool. And he's right. With the right work, anyone can change. MMM. Hinata hummed to herself, looking down. Hey Hinata, who was that guy? Shikamaru asked. Seems like a real jackass. That's my cousin. She answered. He wasn't always like that. Please don't hate him for that. He has his reasons for his behavior. I don't care what reasons he has, no one can be that rude to you. He better hope we don't have to fight. Naruto said with affirmation. Hinata looked down again. Come on. Let's go visit Han's team. Pass the time peacefully. Shikamaru offered. Naruto and Hinata took him on the offer. They went back to the room the team from IWA was staying and hanged out with the genin. In a little bit, Hinata was able to forget that encounter with her cousin. The team was able to enjoy themselves and their time in the tower. They only had a little bit more time left for relaxation and peace. Time went by faster. The 5-day time limit ended and all the genin teams were led to a large open room similar to an auditorium. Altogether, 8 teams had passed, 5 from Konoha, 1 from Suna, 1 from IWA and 1 from Oto. 24 genin had passed. Looks like the teams that all stood out passed. Sasuke noted with a smirk as his eyes wandered from Rock Lee to Gaara to Kuratsuchi. All the rookie teams passed. Niji realized before his eyes focused on a glare towards Hinata. How the hell did those Oto guys still pass? We took their scroll in the forest when they attacked us. Kiba groaned as he looked at the team from Otogekure. Whatever. We can take them. Those guys in the IWA team are going down. On a raised platform, the Sandaime Hokage stood at a podium. The Jonin senseis of the 8 genin teams were standing by his side along with the Chunin exam proctors. All of them were staring at the genin intently. I never thought I'd see the day when 24 brats passed. Kurinai, you were soft during your exam. Ibiki inwardly noted. Or perhaps the candidates this year are even better than I thought. I never expected 8 teams to pass, I really thought it would be in the single digits. 4 teams tops. Kurinai was surprised. Her eyes then focused on Team 3, and she instinctively released a sigh of relief. Anko, your team looks fine. At least they got out of that thing alive. Kurenai stepped forward towards the edge of the raised platform and proceeded to speak. I must congratulate you all on passing the second exam. She informed them with a small smile on her face. This is my first year proctoring, so I am very impressed to see so many teams have passed. Damn right, it's your first year. I would have never passed this many. Anko grumbled, still bitter about not being able to be a proctor. I must echo Kurenai-san's praise. You have all done well so far. Hiruzen spoke up. I will now explain the third exam, but before I do, I'd like to elaborate more on the purpose of this exam. Kurenai-san, if you may. The exam proctor nodded in understanding before walking back in line with the other spectators. The Sandaime Hokage proceeded to explain the purpose of the Chunin exams, a substitution for war. Many of the genins were shocked by this realization. War. These exams are like war? Naruto repeated the idea, feeling uncomfortable. Kuratsuchi had a similar uncomfortable feeling about the idea. War, huh? Risho mumbled, taking a second to look at the various Konoha genin around him. His hand instinctively went to his sword as a smirk developed on his face. Heh. Seems fitting. The Sandaime continued his lecture. He mentioned the politics involved with the exam, and that many visitors will be watching, including daimyos and noblemen. Hiruzen stated how the exams were also a way to show them the power of each shinobi village. When his lecture was finished, Sarutobi Hiruzen was about to explain what the third exam was when a man appeared on the floor of the auditorium. He was a sickly man with brown hair that was covered by a Konoha forehead protector that was worn like a bandana. He wore the traditional Konoha shinobi uniform, including the flak jacket. He also had katana strapped on his back. Forgive me, Hokage-sama. The man spoke with a cough. But, ahem, allow me, Gecko Heiate, to continue from here. Go ahead. The Sandaime permitted. The man, Heiate, stood up and turned his attention to the genin teams. He raised his hands as he coughed again before he started to speak again. As you have heard, my name is Gecko Heiate. While, ahem, it is good that so many of you had passed, it also proposes a problem. Too many of you have passed. He told them, still coughing. Therefore, ahem, we are going to hold a preliminary exam right now to determine who will participate in the third exam. Omake 3, Kuratsuchi's Revenge. The previous night, the night before the preliminaries. Good night, guys. Shikamaru told his teammates as he headed to bed early. The Nara was tired. Again. Every day since the beginning of the second exam, he has been exhausted. His body and his mind seemed to be angry about all the work he performed in the second exam and, therefore, were demanding plenty of sleep and compensation. Shikamaru was in no mood to reject this demand. He hopped into his bed, covered himself up, and prepared to fall asleep. He closed his eyes. Comfy? Shikamaru's eyes opened again, and he scanned his room. There, standing by the bed, was Kuratsuchi. The Iwa Kunoichi had a devious grin on her face, but Shikamaru was too tired to really care. Can I help you? He answered as he closed his eyes. You know, if you really wanted to help with something, you would probably need your eyes open. The Iwa Kunoichi pointed out. The Nara ignored her suggestion and kept his eyes closed. Kuratsuchi frowned and proceeded to make hand signs. Water style, water trumpet. A blast of water immediately hit Shikamaru's head. The blast was light so that it would not injure him. It had the desired effect though. Shikamaru was soaked, he got himself out of bed, and his eyes were wide open. What the hell? He shouted in surprise. Good. You're up. Kuratsuchi exclaimed, giggling to herself. Shikamaru glared at the giggling girl in front of him. And why did you just attack me? 'Cause you were going to fall asleep. She answered simply, still giggling. And what's the problem with that? he asked as he tried to lie back down again to go to sleep. He then tried to close his eyes again. Kuratsuchi frowned and proceeded to jump onto his bed. This caused him to gasp, keeping his eyes open. Revenge. For what? Shikamaru questioned. His mind worked to remember what she was talking about. It didn't take long for him to remember. He sighed. Wait, are you seriously still mad about me not playing a silly card game? I told you I'd get revenge. She responded. I was tired. He rolled his eyes before attempting to close his eyes again. And I still am. You're always tired. She replied, jumping up on the bed again and causing his eyes to open again. Ugh. The Nara shook his head in frustration. Are you seriously going to keep my teammates up when they come to bed? Them? Of course not. Kuratsuchi's face turned into a grin. I already told them about this. They're sleeping in different rooms for the night. It's just going to be you and me. You have got to be kidding me. The Nara slammed his head against the headrest of his bed, hoping it would knock him out. It didn't. You do realize that one card game would have been about 20 minutes. How does that equal a full night's sleep? It's not about the card game, it's about sending a message. She responded ominously. Ha! What message? That you need to stop being an antisocial lazy ass. Shikamaru groaned. This is going to be a long night, troublesome girl. The Nara's prediction was correct. Every time he was about to sleep, Kuratsuchi would do something to wake up. Whether it was jumping up on the bed, saying something in an overly loud voice, or splashing him with a water jutsu, the Iwa Kunoichi had a variety of ways to make sure Shikamaru wasn't going to sleep. 2 hours into the torture, revenge, Kuratsuchi started to yawn. Getting tired yourself, huh? Why don't you get some sleep yourself? Shikamaru nearly begged, hoping that if she fell asleep, he could sleep as well. Nope. I took a long nap earlier in the day just so I could do this. She replied, trying to stifle another yawn. Go to sleep, please. Shikamaru begged. No. Kuratsuchi retorted. Please? No. Please? Never. Please? No. The next day, Naruto walked over to his room with a grin on his face. The second exam was going to be over in a little more than an hour. He and the others were going to need to get prepared, so he had to go get Shikamaru. I wonder what kind of shape he's in. He's probably really tired and really pissed off. Naruto chuckled. Kuratsuchi's a genius. I'm going to have to do this to him someday the next time he pisses me off. Databao. Naruto opened the door the second he got there. Hey Shikamaru. What's you? Naruto started but stopped when he saw the sight in front him. Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi were both asleep. Shikamaru was underneath the covers and Kuratsuchi was on top of them. Despite this, the two genin were cuddling. Naruto stared at the scene in front of him for a few seconds in shock before he started to grin again. His mind memorized the mental picture in front of him before he left the room, trying to find some way to record it. This is the perfect blackmail, was the only thought through his head. The loud noise the Uzumaki made ended up stirring the two sleeping genin. They woke up at the same time and noticed the position they were in. Kuratsuchi had jumped off the bed and Shikamaru had fallen off the bed on the other side. The two stared at each other for what felt like forever. They were both blushing. Seconds passed before. This never happened. Got it? They spoke together in near unison. The two nodded in agreement. Kuratsuchi immediately left the room and Shikamaru proceeded to get ready for the day. Still, the two could not erase the blush on each of their faces. Chapter 18, Beginning the Preliminaries. A preliminary exam? The hell? Kiba asked. Most of the 24 genin had similar concerns. They were all confused about what was happening. According to exam protocol, we are, required to have a preliminary exam if the number of participants goes over a certain limit. Hayate explained before he went into a coughing fit. He waited until he finished coughing before continuing to speak. Sorry about that. Anyway, as Hokage-sama said, many important guests and potential clients will be attending the exams, so we will do our best to ensure that they are fast-paced and intense. Therefore, we will have a preliminary exam right now. What? Now? Ino shrieked. Yes. Yes. Now. The exam proctor affirmed. If this is an issue to anyone, you can walk away and leave the exam. From this point, the Chunin exams will be based on the individual, so a team will not be disqualified if one member has to leave. Naruto turned to his two teammates. The three friends gave each other a look. All three would stay and compete. Excuse me. I'll walk out then. All Genin turned to face the voice. Yakushi Kabuto was rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Kabuto-san, you are leaving? Sakura asked with wide eyes. Yeah. I have some injuries from the forest that I need to get treated. He answered with a frustrated sigh. I don't think I could handle another exam right now. My health is more important. Guess I'll just have to try again next time. Yakushi Kabuto of Konoha's Team 19? Hayate questioned the silver-haired Genin. The Genin nodded in response. Very well then. You are free to go. Kabuto immediately broke formation and started to walk away. The Genin in the room stared at him as he left. Some were staring in shock and others in disbelief that somebody would have to quit the Chunin exams after coming so far. A few, however, were looking at him with suspicion for that reason. So that's the 7th time that guy failed? Naruto wondered as he narrowed his eyes. I don't get. He just quit before even hearing what the preliminary exam was like. He could maybe have done it, no matter what injuries he has. Is he not even trying to pass? Shikamaru was wondering the same thing. His eyes turned to focus on one of the Oto Genins, a black-haired boy that had his arms wrapped up in a sling. That guy's still competing with 2 broken arms. And Kabuto, who seems physically fine, quits and fails the exams. Again. He closes his eyes in thought. That guy, there's something going on with him. Silence filled the room as Hayate waited to see if anyone else would quit. It soon became apparent that no one else would. If no one else is planning on leaving, then, I'll explain the rules of the preliminary exam. It will be series of 1 versus 1 fights. Hayate explained as he pointed a finger upwards towards a large screen on the ceiling. That screen will display 2 names at random. When your name is shown, you will fight against the other person chosen. The winner will move on to the 3rd exam and the loser will fail. Hayate's explanation was interrupted by another cough. There will be 12 matches in total. Since there is an odd number of you, the 12th match will be between the person who hasn't fought yet and one person chosen at random from the winners of the previous 11 matches. Wait, what? So that means that one of us will have to win 2 matches to pass the preliminaries? Sakura asked as some fear crept onto her face. That's a bunch of bull. Kiba shouted. That means one person is going to have an easy match against someone who was tired out. That's not even fair. Ino shouted. Call it whatever you like, but you're not going to change the system. Hayate stated firmly. Troublesome. Shikamaru sighed in frustration. For the love of God, please don't let me have to do 2 fights. The preliminary exam will begin now. Hayate declared. The screen lit up and names started flashing on the screen. All the genin focused intently on the screen. A full minute passed by before the screen stopped on 2 names. Hyuga Niji vs. Abumi Zaku. This is the first match. You 2 will stay here. Will all the other combatants please move to the raised platform? The exam proctor stated as he gestured to the stairs in the room. The genin all nodded in response as they, excluding Niji and Zaku, headed to the stairs. So that jerk is going first, huh? Naruto noted as a smirk developed on his face. Heh, alright then. Let's see if you can back up any of your big talk. Niji and I-san, good luck. Hinata mentally wished her cousin good luck. The genin finally reached the upper platform and stood near the rails of the platform to watch the matches. The Jonin senseis walked over to meet up with their students. Yo guys! Anko called out as she walked behind her students. Gotta say, I don't remember seeing a preliminary ever. This is actually exciting to me. You all better not fuck up your fights. Do you honestly think we will? Naruto rolled his eyes at her question. Not really. She shrugged in response. She then turned to Hinata. So one of those guys is a Hyuga. You know him? Yeah. Hinata answered quietly. Anko realized that Hinata didn't seem to want about the guy. She decided to comply to her student's desire. Well, the match I guess is about to start. The members of Team 3 stared down at the two genin. Niji chuckled to himself. Zaku noticed this and scowled. You have something to say? The Oto genin asked sharply. I'd advise you quit now. Niji advised. Zaku's eyes widened at the declaration before they narrowed into a glare. And why do you say that, punk? While I do not know much of Oto nor do I know your skills, I can see that you are crippled. You cannot hope to beat with that kind of a handicap. Niji answered, giving a condescending smirk. Fate has decided you will not pass. Just quit and save everyone the time. Zaku grit his teeth as he glared at the boy in front of him. You arrogant piece of... He growled before his mouth turned upward into a smirk. He got into a position to charge. He then wiggled his right arm a little. Well, look at that. Guess I can use this to beat your punk ass face into the ground. Humph. Niji shook his head before he got into the stance of the gentle fist. You'll regret this. Hayate looked back and forth between the two genin before he raised his hand. First match, begin. He stated. Zaku made the first move, charging towards Niji. He removed his right arm from his sling and tried to land a punch at Niji's face. The Hyuga only smirked as he used his hand to push Zaku's fist away. He then used his other hand to deliver a palm to Zaku's chest, knocking him backwards a few feet. Niji proceeded to make a hand sign. Byakugan. He shouted. Niji charged at the Oto genin. Zaku attempted to avoid the Hyuga's palms and fight back, but he couldn't. The Hyuga was moving too quick to avoid all of his attacks. Zaku also realized that each time he blocked, it still felt like he was getting hit. Zaku moved back and tried to land a kick at the Hyuga's stomach. Niji easily dodged it and hit Zaku's chest with another palm. The Oto genin was sent flying backwards. He hit the ground and coughed up blood. Just give up. You can't win. Niji advised again, the condescending smirk still on his face. Fuck you. Zaku hissed in response as he lifted the right hand. He pointed it at the Hyuga. Decapitating airwave. A blast of air was fired directly towards Niji. The Konoha genin avoided the attack and charged again. The Oto genin smirked as the Hyuga proceeded to get in close to him. He then pulled his left arm out of the sling and aimed at Niji. Zaku attempted to use another blast of air from his left hand. Niji, however, moved faster and landed a palm strike on Zaku's hand at a point where a hole was. Zaku's jutsu was not released through his hand. The air blast was released through his left arm, puncturing his skin and creating holes so it could be released. The Oto genin screamed in pain as he fell to his knees. He moaned, trying to pull himself up. His effort failed and the boy fell face first to the ground. What the F fuck, did you to me? My Byakugan allows me to see your chakra network. I saw how those tunnels in your arms since I activated, and I also saw how that air technique worked. You released the chakra through those holes in your hands. So, I sealed off the tenketsu in your hand at the point where the hole was located. Niji answered. Your chakra couldn't get released from the hole, but it needed to get released somehow. So, it released itself at the expense of your arm. The Hyuga proceeded to walk away, towards the stairs. Proctor, call the match. It's over and he will not get up. Zaku could not retort this. The boy succumbed to the pain in his arm and chest and passed out. Hayate signaled for medical service as he pointed to Niji. Winner, Hyuga Niji. Damn. Naruto whistled. I guess he can back up some of the stuff he says. Niji Nii-san is considered a prodigy in the Hyuga clan. Hinata stated quietly with a smile. Hinata-chan, I don't know why you are so happy he won. That guy was a jackass to you earlier. The Uzumaki commented. Hinata looked down. It's complicated. Niji walked upstairs and headed to his team while Zaku was carried away by medics. Hayate took the time to speak up. The second match will begin now. He stated as the screen lit up. All eyes were focused on the screen again. Another minute passed before the screen stopped on another two names. Akimichi Choji vs Nara Shikamaru. Naruto's and Hinata's eyes went wide as they turned to face their teammate. Shikamaru's mouth dropped for a second before it twisted into a frown. You have got to be kidding me. The Nara groaned as he shook his head. Isn't that the Akimichi boy you guys hang out with sometimes? Anko asked. Yeah. Naruto answered. Shikamaru-kun. Hinata frowned as she looked over at her teammate and friend. Whatever. It's what was picked, so I guess it is happening. Shikamaru sighed as he walked towards the stairs. Shikamaru's lazy. He won't want to do shit. You can totally kick his ass. Go Choji. Ino shouted as she watched Choji walk down the stairs. Both Asuma and Shino sighed. The two of them were cheering for the Akimichi as well, but they felt like keeping their comments to themselves, unlike a certain blonde member of their team. Shikamaru and Choji finally reached the fighting ground. The two boys stared at each other, both frowning. Choji himself almost looked ill at the prospect of fighting his best friend. The two continued to stare for a few seconds before Shikamaru finally broke the silence with a sigh. It can't be helped. Let's just get this over with, Choji? He commented as he got into a stance. You really want to fight, Shikamaru? Choji asked hesitantly. I don't think I can. I don't want to have to fight you. Choji, you are way too gentle. Shikamaru shook his head before speaking. I don't want to either, but it is what it is. And after the hell I went through in the second exam, I'm not quitting, and I don't want to see you quit either. We just have to do this. So, let's just give it our best and see what happens. No regrets and all that. Choji still looked hesitant to fight. Shikamaru's eyes then widened as an idea entered his head. Choji, let's turn this fight into a bet. If I win, you have to help me out with a few chores at my house. And if you win, I'll take you out for barbecue, my treat. He suggested. Shikamaru's plan worked. At the mention of barbecue, Choji's eyes brightened. His disposition changed entirely as he got into a fighting position. You're going to regret that, begged Shikamaru. The Akimichi declared confidently, all traces of hesitation gone from his voice. Now that barbecue is on the line, I can't lose. Typical Choji. The way to motivate him is through the stomach. Shikamaru chuckled to himself before speaking aloud. Well, my mom has a few things she needs me to get done, and it's all going to be a pain in the ass, so I'm going to need your help with it. I won't lose either. Hayate raised his hand. Second match, begin. Choji quickly made a hand sign and shouted expansion jutsu. The boy's body expanded, causing him to look like a giant ball. Human boulder. Choji tucked in his limbs and then rolled towards Shikamaru at great speeds, resembling a moving boulder. The Nara jumped out of the way of his rolling friend. Choji responded by changing directions, aiming once again for Shikamaru. Shikamaru continued to dodge his rolling friend while Choji continued to try and run him over. I can't do a damn thing to him with that expansion jutsu activated. I need to end the jutsu of his. Shikamaru mentally noted. The Nara pulled out a kunai with an explosive tag attached to it. He then threw it onto the ground directly in front of Choji's rolling body. The Akimichi rolled over it almost immediately and the tag went off. The explosion caused Choji's rolling body to fly into the air. The Nara smirked as he tossed another kunai with another explosive tag attached to it at Choji's body. To avoid the explosion, Choji cancelled his jutsu, making his body return to normal size. Choji was then able to avoid the kunai and land on the ground safely. There was a noticeable chunk of his shirt missing, and the exposed skin on his stomach looked as if it was burned. Those explosive tags really hurt. Choji winced as he attempted to ignore the pain. He then made another hand sign. Partial expansion jutsu. He shouted as he made a punching gesture. The Akimichi's arm expanded in size. The enlarged fist zoomed across the arena. Shikamaru avoided a punch directly to the face. Choji then enlarged his other arm and made a pushing gesture. His hand was able to hit Shikamaru. The Nara was then pushed against a wall and held there from the waist down. Shikamaru immediately started coughing from pain. Ugh, this is new. Shikamaru spoke up with a slight cough. Yup. Dad talked to me about a week or two ago. Pretty cool, huh? Choji said, proud of his jutsu. I guess this is game, huh, Shikamaru? Barbecue is all mine. Not yet. The Nara responded as he lifted his hands and made a hand sign. Shadow possession jutsu. Choji immediately lost the ability to move his body. He felt himself letting go of Shikamaru. That was a good try, but next time you try and restrain me or anyone, make sure you also restrain the hands. Shikamaru noted, a smirk on his face. I thought I did. Choji sighed in frustration. And because my hands were still holding you in place, our shadows were connected. I set that up for you easily, didn't I? Yup. The Nara said as he raised his right hand and brought up to his face. Choji's enlarged right arm was also brought to his face as well. Choji, I'd suggest you forfeit, otherwise I will punch myself in the face. It'll hurt me a little bit, but considering that huge-ass hand of yours, it'll probably hurt you a lot more. Your jutsu only paralyzes my body, you know. Not my chakra. Choji commented as his arms decreased in size back to normal. A smirk developed on his face. Still want to punch yourself? Nah, I don't see the point anymore. But I do have something just as effective. Shikamaru commented as he pulled out another kunai with an explosive tag. I don't remember you ever having this many explosive tags. Choji laughed a little as he pulled out a kunai of his own. His, however, didn't have a tag on it. I was getting tired of all the comments about not being offensive. What is more offensive than big explosions? Shikamaru answered with a snicker. The two friends threw their kunais directly in front of the other. And that's game, Choji. All I need to do is activate the seal on the tag. Unless you surrender, of course. Shikamaru noted. Choji let out a deep sigh. You're right. I surrender. Winner, Nara Shikamaru. Heiei called the match. Shikamaru immediately cancelled his jutsu, freeing Choji. He then walked over to his friend and extended his fist. Almost had me there. You did good, Choji. Shikamaru complimented, a smile on his face. Choji returned the smile with one of his own as he bumped fists with the Nara. You did good yourself. You'll make Chunin easily by the end of this. Hopefully. This exam has been too troublesome to not walk away from it without a promotion. Shikamaru claimed. The two best friends laughed as they headed up the stairs and walked back to their respective teammates. Got to say, lazy ass, you did a good job. Anko said to the Nara as he came up. Yeah, you and Choji really kicked ass. Naruto said as he raised his hand. Shikamaru responded by giving him a high five. We tried to. Shikamaru-kun. Hinata started as she dug into her weapon's pouch. Instead of a weapon, however, she pulled out a small container. Here. It's a cream for your injuries. You made this? Shikamaru asked, impressed. He opened the container and started to rub the cream on some of the bruises he got from his fight. Aha. Hinata replied. I'll go give one to Choji-kun too. I hope that helps. Heh. The Nara gave the Hyuga heiress a smile in response. You're way too kind, Hinata. Hey. Shikamaru. The members of Team 3 turned their heads to see Kuratsuchi approaching them. Good job out there. Thought he almost had you, but you reacted quickly and effectively. She complimented before a playful smirk appeared on her face. Ha, looks like you can actually do things besides lying down and sleeping. Anko and Naruto laughed loudly, Hinata giggled, and Shikamaru rolled his eyes in response. Thanks, I guess. The Nara said with a shrug. No, seriously, I meant it. Good job. Kuratsuchi said seriously, giving him a pat on the back. Shikamaru was about to respond back to her, but was cut off as the screen started to brighten up. All attention was focused on it as it went through the various names. Inuzuka Kiba versus Kurogane Risho. Kiba is going to fight Risho? The guy who hates IWA more than anyone here versus the guy who hates Konoha more than anyone here? Shikamaru commented. Kiba hates IWA? Naruto asked. It didn't surprise him too much, considering he had an issue with IWA at first before meeting Han's team, but it was still news to him. Oh yeah? Shikamaru sighed. He was being really troublesome about it. I almost feel bad for the dog boy. Kuratsuchi said with a frown on her face. All eyes turned to her. Why's that? Hinata asked her. Roto mentioned it once before last night. Risho's been pretty antsy ever since we got to Konoha. Kuratsuchi sighed in response. I'd hate to fight him right now when he's like that. I don't think he's going to be gentle with the Inuzuka. And neither will Kiba. This match isn't going to end pretty for the loser. Shikamaru shook his head. Kiba and Risho stood across from each other in the arena. The two of them were glaring at each other. It's only fitting I get an IWA scum to fight. Kiba said, a feral grin on his face. Akamaru barked in agreement. Humph. And why's that, Konoha trash? Risho asked back with a scowl. Kiba's grin turned into a scowl as he started to clench his fists. You know of another Inuzuka Kiba? The Konoha genin asked with a growl. That was the name of my mom's older brother. He died in the last war at the hands of you stupid scum. You all killed him and his partner. Kiba's voice was now getting louder. You all killed him and so many Inuzuka shinobi. It's only fitting that I, named after my uncle who you killed, rip you apart. Who the fuck cares about your damn uncle? Risho shouted back. Obviously not you, you damn murderer. Kiba growled in response. Akamaru growled back with equal passion. Fuck you. He pointed a finger at the Inuzuka. Your uncle, the rest of your filthy clan, and your village killed IWA shinobi too. Do you have an idea how many Kurogane shinobi died in the war? Risho then clenched his fists. Over a third of Iwa's casualties came from my clan alone. A fucking third. And a lot of them were genin. They weren't experienced killers, they were just kids thrown into war that were focused in fights first because of our Kekii Genkai. Don't you dare talk to me about deaths in the war. As Kiba and Risho continued to curse each other out, the people observing the fight were getting more and more uncomfortable. Otsum, your son is so full of hate. Sarutobi lamented, a large frown on his face. This is what war really causes, it only sows more hate. Kuratsuchi, is all of that true? Naruto asked the IWA girl. Yup. Team 3 turned their heads to see Roto and Han approach the group. Roto, being the one who answered, continued to speak. The Kurogane clan is one of the 3 most important clans in Iwagakure. Their Kekii Genkai is infamous throughout the shinobi nations. So yeah, the Kurogane members were focused whenever one of them was in a battle. The clan was devastated in the war. There aren't too many left either. Roto explained. There are around 15 to 20 Kurogane clan members left. Han clarified. Originally, they had a population similar to that of your Hyuga clan with both branches. Hinata nearly gagged at the mental image of her clan losing that many members. That's horrible. It is. Anko nodded, a frown on her face. But it's what happens in war. So many people just end up dead. Naruto and Kuratsuchi looked at each other. Both of them could see the determination in the other as they remembered their conversation a few nights ago. We have to make sure that never happens again. We have to end all wars. Naruto told himself. Kuratsuchi was having similar thoughts. The 2 genin in the arena stopped arguing and instead got into position to fight. Heiei took this time to raise his hand. Match 3, begin. He stated. Kiba immediately made a hand sign and shouted, Ninja art of beast mimicry, all fours jutsu. The Inuzuka positioned his body with his hands on the ground as chakra coursed through his body. He became more feral as his teeth and nails grew sharper and his eyes developed slits. He then charged forward at Risho like a wild animal. Risho smirked as he drew his sword. Kiba swung his claws at him. The IWA genin blocked the claws with his blade. He then attempted to slice Kiba, but the Inuzuka jumped out of the way. Risho proceeded to charge after him, gripping his sword tightly. Kiba avoided another of Risho's attacks and proceeded to strike again with his claws. Risho was able to block the claws with his sword's blade again. The Kurogane then used his force to push Kiba backwards. The Inuzuka, as he was sent flying backwards, grabbed a smoke ball from his weapon's pouch and dropped it on the ground. The smoke soon covered the arena. Akamaru, at the sight of the smoke, charged into it. The white dog moved its way through the smoke until it reached the Kurogane. It immediately jumped towards the boy in attempt to bite him. Risho, however, was able to see Akamaru's attack, and he intercepted Akamaru by giving the dog a kick. Akamaru was sent flying backwards into the ground. It whined at impact before pulling himself up and growling in anger. The dog then rejoined his partner. I have a teammate who specializes on stealth. Don't you dare even try that bullshit on me. Risho taunted as he pointed his sword at Kiba. Humph. Kiba scoffed before turning to Akamaru. Come on Akamaru, let's kick some ass. You ready? Akamaru barked in agreement. Kiba bent over and Akamaru jumped on his back. Man-beast clone. Akamaru transformed into a near-perfect clone of Kiba. He jumped off his partner's back. They then got on all fours and charged towards Risho. Kiba reached Risho first and swung his claws again at him. The Kurogane moved backwards to avoid the strike. Akamaru then jumped in and tried to elbow him. Risho blocked it with the hilt of his sword. Akamaru then responded by trying to claw him. Risho was forced to put distance between him and the 2 partners. Kiba and Akamaru charged again. Risho gripped his sword tightly. Kyurigane Kenjutsu style, intercepting blade. As Kiba and Akamaru attacked Risho, he spun around in a circular fashion. He moved his sword at a rapid speed. The hilt intercepted the claws of his attackers. Upon intercepting, Risho would turn his sword around to make a tiny cut onto Kiba and Akamaru. He blocked all strikes and successfully retaliated with plentiful cuts. Kiba and Akamaru eventually ended their attack and made distance. They were breathing hard and covered in cuts. Some blood was leaking and stained their clothes. Risho, on the other hand, was perfectly fine. The hell was that? Kiba asked before he shook his head. Never mind, it doesn't matter. You may have blocked that, but I know as hell you won't be able to block this. Kiba and Akamaru moved in opposite directions. Both dropped smoke balls, covering the arena once again in smoke with Risho at the center of the smoke. The two partners then started to spin and rotate rapidly. Ninja art of beast mimicry, Fong over Fong. Kiba and Akamaru, still spinning, charged into the smoke and drilled through it. They could feel themselves make contact with something, which caused the two to grin. Kiba and Akamaru eventually ended their assault and waited to see the Kyurigane on the ground, covered in wounds. Instead, when the smoke cleared, they saw Risho standing perfectly still. His body was covered in a silver-grayish-colored armor. Kiba and Akamaru were gaping at the sight. What is that? Kiba asked from the shock. My Kekii Genkai, the Iron Release. Congrats, your attack made me actually have to use it. Risho answered with a malicious grin. Now, you had your chance to finish me off. I believe it's my turn now. Risho charged forwards. He took advantage of Kiba and Akamaru's shock to get in close. He delivered a cut into Akamaru's chest. The white dog was forced out of his clone as it fell down in pain, a large cut running down his chest. Akamaru! Kiba shouted before he turned his attention to the Kyurigane. His eyes almost looked red. You. Oh, relax, that cut isn't enough to kill him. No way in hell was it deep enough to do so. Risho responded nonchalantly. Just needed to knock him out for a bit. You, on the other hand, will see how deep your cut will be. Kiba wasted not another second. He charged at Risho with his claws raised. Risho used his sword's blade to block the claws. He then pushed back with more force again, knocking Kiba backwards. This time, though, Risho then stabbed Kiba in the stomach with his sword. Ah! The Inuzuka hissed in pain. He started to cough up blood. How does it feel, Konoha trash? Risho taunted as he dug his blade further into Kiba. In seconds, he pulled the sword out of Kiba. The Inuzuka coughed up more blood and fell down to the ground. Blood from his wound started to leak onto the ground. Should I? Risho debated aloud as he raised his sword as if he was about to strike again. Immediately, Han and Hatake Kakashi jumped into the arena. Han restrained his student from the back, while Hatake Kakashi stood in front of him, a kunai in his hand, and aimed directly at the IWA Genin's chest. Hayate also interfered, gripping the Kyurigane's sword tightly. What the dash Risho started to say before he was silenced by a glare from the Konoha Jonin in front of him. The match is over. Kiba is in no condition to fight. There is no reason to continue. Kakashi stated sharply. You aren't going to do any more damage. And why not? Risho shouted, not even caring that the man in front of him was a Jonin. I thought your damn Hokage said this was a substitute for war. People die in war. I am not going to let you kill my student, Genin. I will sooner kill you. Kakashi threatened. There will be no meaningless deaths. Hayate affirmed. Risho, the match is over. Head back upstairs. Han ordered. Humph. The Jonin eventually released Risho. The Kyurigane scoffed as he sheathed his sword and walked away towards the stairs. This was war, why interfere? He asked himself. His eyes were still clouded with anger from his fight. No one bothered to interfere during any of the battles with clansmen, so why get all moral and intervene in now? Hayate made a hand gesture, calling for medical assistance. He then finally made the call for the match. Winner, Kurogane Risho. Medics arrived in the arena and picked up Kiba and Akamaru's bodies before they were carried off. Kiba. Sakura watched her teammate and his partner get taken away with a concerned look on her face. The two genin of Team 7 continued to stare at Kiba until he was removed from the room. They said no word until Sasuke finally broke the silence. Kiba deserved better than that. Sasuke concluded, a scowl on his face. Kurogane better hope I don't have to fight him anytime soon. Agreed. Sakura nodded. Her eyes started to water slightly. Kiba can be annoying at times, but he is a nice guy. There was no need to go that far. Sakura couldn't help but glare at Risho as he walked up the stairs. All she could hope for was that the boy would get his ass kicked when the true third exam occurred. Silence had filled the area around Team 3 and the other members of Han's genin team. Risho had walked up the stairs and headed to a corner away from his team and Team 3. Han then appeared again in the group. At the sight of the IWA Jonin, Roto broke the silence. Was Risho really about to kill that guy? He asked hesitantly. I couldn't tell, but I wasn't going to risk the Inuzuka's life by assuming he wouldn't. Han answered. There was a disappointed edge to his voice. I must say, I've never seen Risho that angry or violent before. That was. The IWA Jonin stopped mid-sentence, looking for the right word to say. Disgusting. Naruto finished Han's sentence with a slight growl. The blonde was clenching his fists tightly. Even if he lost most of his clan, even if Kiba was also being an ass, that is no excuse for that. He looked like he was going to straight up kill him, and Kiba didn't do a damn thing. He wasn't the one who killed anyone in war. The Uzumaki turned his look over to where Risho was in the corner of the room. His eyes narrowed. It's disgusting and pathetic. Hinata put her hand on his shoulder, gripping it tightly. Naruto-kun. Naruto took in a deep breath. After a few seconds, his anger subsided a little bit. He turned to Hinata and sighed. Thanks. I needed that. Silence filled the area again as Hayate decided to announce the fourth match. The screen started to flash with different names appearing on the screen. Eventually, the screen stopped on two more names. Rock Lee vs. Tsurugi Misumi. YOSH. Everyone turned their heads to face the direction of the noise. Rock Lee was practically jumping up and down in place, a large smile on his face. I didn't have to wait too long at all. He exclaimed happily and loudly. That's right, Lee. Not long at all. Guy, his sensei, shouted back with equal intensity and volume. It is now your turn to show everyone here the flames of your youth. Go Lee. Make me and your teammates proud. Yes sir Gai sensei. Lee nearly screamed as he jumped off the railing, not even bothering to take the stairs. Guy looked down at Lee, pride beaming in his eyes. Tenten appeared embarrassed by the actions of her teammate and sensei. Niji acted as if he didn't notice a thing, although his eyes were twitching slightly. Tsurugi Misumi took the stairs down and reacted much more calmly to the news of his fight. He stood across the arena from Lee, who was already in position to fight. Misumi-san, is it? Let us have a wonderful fight. Lee stated to his opponent. Humph. Humph. Sure. Misumi responded with a scoff as he got into position of his own. Better be ready, freak, because I'm going to take you down hard. Hayate raised his hand. Fourth match, begin. Misumi charged, making the first move. He attempted to land a punch on Lee, but the spandex-wearing genin blocked the blow with his arm. Misumi's arm then stretched. It wrapped itself around Lee's arm before he could react. What? Lee gasped as he struggled to pull himself out. His attempts ultimately failed. The elder Konoha genin had wrapped his entire body around him. A part of his stretched-out arm had started to choke Lee's neck. I can dislocate any of the joints in my body and then, using my chakra, can soften my skin and then stretch it. Misumi explained his technique with a smirk. Surrender now, kid. Or else you're going to end up with a broken neck. Wouldn't want that, would you? Due to the way Misumi had tangled himself around him, Lee was unable to move his arms and legs to break free. The spandex-wearing genin, however, knew of another method to break free. He made eye contact with his Jonin sensei. Guy simply nodded his head, giving Lee approval to use it. I'm afraid I have to decline, Misumi-san. Lee responded as he closed his eyes. Gate of opening, open. Lee's body was now able to utilize 100% of its strength. Using this strength, he was able to now finally move his arms and pull Misumi and his stretched limbs off him before the elder genin could react. Misumi was sent backwards, his eyes wide. How did you break free? He questioned. That kid can open the 8 gates? Anko's eyes went wide. Well, damn. 8 gates? Naruto repeated the phrase. I've heard about that before. Hinata closed her eyes, trying to think where she had heard it. She soon realized what they were and her eyes went wide. Wait, aren't those the 8 central points in a person's chakra pathway system? Bingo. Bingo. It's possible to open those points and, in return, gain access to strength, speed, and power that would normally be impossible for their body to utilize. Anko explained. Her eyes were fixated on the boy. But still, opening even one of the gates puts a great deal of physical stress and damage on the body. They are considered forbidden techniques. And this kid knows how to open at least one of them. How strong is Lee? Naruto asked himself as he turned back to the fight. Upon breaking free from his constraint, Rock Lee undid the bandages on his arms. He then rushed forward to the still shocked Misumi and delivered a strong kick upward into the elder genin's jaw. Misumi was sent flying into the air. Lee then jumped up and his bandages wrapped around him and his stretched out limbs. Once Misumi was wrapped up, the 2 Konoha genin started to fall downwards. Lee soon began to spin himself and the wrapped up Misumi. Primary Lotus. The 2 genin made contact with the arena ground, filling the arena with dust. Once the dust cleared, Lee could be seen standing in the middle of the arena breathing hard. Misumi, however, was laying on his back, unconscious. Winner of the 4th match, Rock Lee. Hayate called the match as he motioned for medical assistance. Despite his exhausted physical condition, Lee couldn't hide his excitement. YOSH. Excellent work, Lee. Guy shouted down to his student. Gai-sensei. Lee shouted as he rushed back upstairs. Lee. Gai-sensei. Lee. Gai-sensei. You Konoha shinobi are weird. Roto shuddered as he stared at the 2 spandex-wearing shinobi celebrating. Agreed. Kuratsuchi and Han said in unison. I like to think we aren't like that. No, not like that all. Shikamaru said with a shiver. Not even a little bit. Anko nodded with a shiver of her own. Guy is a special case. I think they look kinda cool. Naruto said quietly. Naruto-kun, it really isn't. Hinata said back with a frown. The screen lit up again and started to flash more names before it stopped on another 2. Aburame Shino vs Haruno Sakura. Heh. Calling it right now, Shino wins this easily. Shikamaru said with a chuckle. You never know. Sakura-chan could give him a run for his money. Naruto responded. Sakura-chan? Roto repeated the name. She's somebody you close with? Well, yes. Naruto answered hesitantly before he sighed and shook his head. No. Not really. At least on her end. I used to have a crush on her back when we're in the academy days. She would always blow me off when I tried to ask her out though. I don't think she likes me that much at all honestly. Do you still have a crush on her? Roto asked with a slight hopeful edge to his voice. Hinata was now listening very closely for the blonde's response. Nah. We are on two separate teams and I haven't really seen her that much since we became genin. After a couple of months, I guess I just stared to realize that she never liked me, and that a crush on her was kinda pointless. Naruto answered. Roto mumbled with a sigh. Hopefully he's not interested in Hinata-chan now though. Hinata also sighed, but her sight was out of relief. Shino and Sakura walked down to the arena. Sakura's eyes were still wet from Kiba's fight, but they were also filled with determination. Shino was strong in the academy, but I know that his taijutsu was not good at all. If I can get up close and fight him like that, I can win this thing, she told herself. She then noticed her eyes wander to where Risho was in the corner of the raised platform. Then I can maybe get a chance at fighting him. Fifth match, begin. Hayate stated as he raised his hand, calling the match. Sakura was the one who made the first move. She ran forwards, pulling out shuriken and tossing them at the Aburame. Shino avoided the shuriken and attempted to put more distance between the two. Sakura, however, continued to come after him. The pink-haired Kunoichi got up to the Aburame and attempted to punch him in the face. Shino blocked the attack with his arm. Sakura then responded by delivering a sweeping kick. The Aburame jumped to avoid the kick, but in the process left himself open. Sakura delivered a punch straight to his stomach, knocking him down to the ground. Sakura hurried over to the boy and waited for him to get up. To her surprise, though, he remained motionless. There's no way that was enough. She noted suspiciously. What are you up to, Shino? Sakura received her answer as the Shino in front of her soon changed shape into multiple Kakachu insects. You, a bee-bug clone? Sakura mentally realized before her eyes wandered over the arena. When did he make one? And where is he now? Once again, Sakura received her answer as she felt herself get backhanded. The real Shino had been able to sneak up behind her. The pink-haired Kunoichi hit the ground hard on her back. As she slowly pulled herself up, she noticed Shino approaching her slowly. She also noticed that on the other side of her, the Kakachu insects approaching her at a similar pace. Crap! She realized after she pulled herself up. Once the Kunoichi had gotten up, the Kakachu moved at a faster speed. They latched onto the girl and started consuming her chakra. She screamed in response as she tried to pry the insects off her. Sakura-san, I believe this is the end. You may wish to surrender. Shino suggested. Why, you ask? Because the Kakachu are slowly consuming your chakra. The longer this goes, the less chakra you will have, and the more likely you will fall unconscious. Sakura shook her head, refusing his suggestion. Soon though, she realized he was right. She could feel her low chakra reserves starting to fade. The Kakachu insects were not coming off no matter how hard she tried to get them off. She was getting exhausted. Damn. I still can't do anything. She realized and tears started to drip down her face. Proctor, I surrender. Hayate nodded. Winner, Aburame Shino. Shino nodded his head at the result and called off his insects. The Kakachu left Sakura alone and returned back to the Aburame. Sakura immediately then ran off towards the upstairs platform. I couldn't do anything in Wave, I couldn't do anything in the forest without help, I couldn't even land a solid hit on Shino, I really am pathetic. She told herself as she ran to the bathroom. Good work, Shino. Choji told his teammate with a smile. The Aburame nodded in response. It was quick and impressive. I have a feeling you are going to earn your promotion in the real exams quite easily. Asuma added with a chuckle. Ino said nothing as she turned her head towards the direction of the bathroom. A frown soon developed on her face. While she was glad that her teammate, no matter how creepy he is, won his match, she was also upset to see Sakura react so negatively. While she and the pink-haired girl were by no means friends anymore, she remembered a time when they were. Ino? Are you okay? Choji asked his teammate. Oh yeah. Yeah. Congrats Shino. She answered quickly before she stared to walk off. Hey guys, I've got to do something for a little bit. I'll be back soon. Shouldn't you wait until they announce your match? You wouldn't want to miss it, right? Asuma asked his student. I'm not going to miss it. She dismissed before she walked off. Ino walked back to the bathroom. Inside, she saw Sakura crying in the corner of the room. She didn't notice that she walked into the room. Ino hesitated for a second but after a deep breath, finally walked forward and put her hand on Sakura's shoulder. The pink-haired girl turned around and finally noticed her. What do you want, Ino? She asked with a sniffle. She rubbed away the tears that were on her cheeks. Yeah, Shino won. I get it. Can you rub it in my face some other time? Ino's frown deepened. She sighed before she started to talk. I'm not here to rub it in your face. Let's talk for a little bit. I've never seen Sakura-chan cry like that before. Naruto noted with a sigh. Hope she's okay. She'll be fine. People cry at times, you know. Just give her some time to let out whatever's bugging her, and she'll be fine later. Anko told her student. That's actually pretty wise. Shikamaru stated. Your beautiful and lovely Jonin-sensei is filled with plenty of ancient wisdom. Ask and you shall receive any answer. She responded with a dramatic bow. The Nara rolled his eyes in response. Maybe I should go check up on her as well. Hinata wondered, looking back at the restroom. Sakura was always nice to her, and she has always had respect for her fellow kunoichi, with an exception made for whenever Naruto was involved. Hinata was about to walk over and see how she was when the screen started to flash. I'll just see who the match is really quick. The screen eventually stopped on two names. Hinata's eyes immediately widened. Well, guess I'm not checking on her yet. Hyuga Hinata versus Yawamasi Roto. Shit. Roto cursed. Of all the people here, it just had to be Hinata. That's another bad matchup. Are we just going to end up fighting friends this entire time? Naruto asked with a scowl on his face. I'd like to see people I like actually get a chance to become Chunin. You're telling me. Shikamaru said with a scoff. He was still a little sore about the fact that he had to fight Choji. It's just bad luck. Anko answered with a sigh. It is what it is. Roto eventually walked over to the stairs with Hinata walking by his side. Well, good luck Hinata-chan. May the best shinobi win. Roto stated. Same to you Roto-kun. Hinata responded with a smile Roto returned. Roto-kun? Naruto repeated the name in the back of his head. He didn't like it. Is it bad that I'm hoping Hinata-chan kicks his ass? The Uzumaki wondered to himself. The two genin stood facing each other in the arena. Heiei raised his hand. Sixth match, begin. He declared. Byakugan. Hinata shouted, activating her Kekii Genkai. She then got into the gentle fist stance. Roto got into position. He started digging into his pockets, his mind working out a strategy. The Byakugan pretty much makes it useless to try being stealthy, and she'd be a nightmare to fight against taijutsu-wise. My best bet is to keep as much distance as possible and try and knock her out with some poison. Hinata made the first move, charging the IWA genin. Roto quickly moved backwards and tossed a poison smoke bomb onto the ground. Hinata stopped rushing forward and moved away from the smoke. The smoke quickly disappeared, but Roto was able to use it to make a significant amount of distance between him and the Hyuga. He then made a hand sign. Earth Style, Earth Clone Jutsu. 4 clones of Roto appeared from the ground of the arena and pulled themselves up. They all stared at Hinata. Keep her away from for a while, will ya? Roto asked his clones. They nodded in response. 2 of the clones charged forward toward the Hyuga. Hinata proceeded to dodge the clones' attacks. She was then able to land palms onto the clones. After a few successful hits, she was able to destroy the clones, causing them to turn to mud and sink back into the ground. Ninja Art, Poison Darts Jutsu. Roto spat out multiple shots of poison that were shaped like darts. Hinata managed to dodge the poison. She responded by quickly pulling out her bow and launching arrows towards the IWA Genin. One of the 2 remaining clones, however, took the arrow shots head-on, blocking them all before he turned into mud and sank back to the ground. Roto proceeded to toss multiple poison smoke bombs at Hinata. She was able to avoid the smoke clouds and ran forward at the IWA Genin. He proceeded to spit out more poison darts, but she was able to avoid the poison. Hinata finally got up close enough to deliver a palm directly to Roto's chest. The IWA Genin's eyes widened before he turned to mud and sunk into the ground. This caused Hinata's eyes to widen. But that was the real one. I know it was. Then what? Hinata's mind realized what was happening. He used substitution with his last remaining clone. Roto had released another barrage of poison darts at the Hyuga while she was shocked. The girl attempted to dodge them, but was hit by a few of the darts. The girl winced in pain. Suddenly, the world in her eyes started to spin. What? She mumbled as she tried to remain steady. The poison utilized messes with your perception. The world's probably spinning right now, isn't it? Roto asked with a smile. Why yeah. Hinata answered. The Hyuga took a deep breath and made a much more conscious effort to remain steady. Slowly, she was becoming used to the changes to her perception. Guess I didn't hit you with enough poison to truly knock you out. Roto's smile turned to a frown. Fine. Let's end this, Hinata. Right. She agreed. I still feel dizzy. I can move, but everything is still spinning. I can't let him hit me again or else the fight will be impossible. I have to end it now, before he lands another hit on me. Hinata charged forward again, slower than previously. Roto, once again, threw out another poison smoke ball, hoping to create distance again. Hinata, however, decided to make hand signs instead of backing off. Water Style, Gunshot. Hinata released a giant ball of water from her mouth that went through the smoke. The water ball pushed the smoke away and smacked into the IWA Genin, soaking him and knocking him backwards. Hinata was then able to reach him and deliver another palm to his chest. He immediately choked, spitting out some blood. She then made a sweeping kick, sending the IWA Genin down to the ground. Hinata then held him down against the ground. Damn it. He cursed as he tried to struggle and pull himself up. Roto-kun, it's over. She told him. I don't quit. Roto declared as he continued in his efforts to pull himself up. I can still win this. Hinata frowned to herself. I didn't want to really hurt him, but if he isn't giving up. Hinata made a chop to his neck. Roto's eyes widened in pain before he eventually succumbed to the pain and fell unconscious. The Hyuga got up. There. That shouldn't have hurt too much. Hinata told herself. Sorry again, Roto-kun. You put up a great fight. Winner of the 6th match, Hyuga Hinata. Hayate called the match as medical came to give Roto assistance. Humph. Of course, he loses. Risho rolled his eyes as he watched Roto get taken away. A civilian-born idiot like him brings shame to any true IWA shinobi. Hinata had just made it up the stairs when Naruto ran over to her and gave her a hug. "You did great, Hinata-chan," he told her as he proceeded to spin her around. Hinata's face was turning a mixture of red from the hug and blue from sickness. Her face was slowly becoming purple. "And Naruto-kun, I am still feeling dizzy. Please put me down before I faint," Hinata begged. She didn't really know if she was going to faint from the dizziness or from the hug. "Oh." Naruto immediately dropped her and rubbed his head in embarrassment. Sorry about that. Just wanted to tell you good job and stuff." "No, it's fine. Thank you," she said with a smile. The two genin walked back to their group. "That's 2 for 2. Am I a great sensei or what?" Anko exclaimed, a large grin on her face. Her grin soon turned into a normal smile though as she faced Hinata. "You did good out there." "Yep." Shikamaru nodded in agreement with his own smile. Thanks." Hinata giggled in response. She was happy to hear the praise given to her from her team. Roto really needs to get his physical condition better. All it took was for her to get in close to him, and he was done. Kuratsuchi commented, a frown on her face. He never listened to our suggestions on his fighting style before. Perhaps he will take this loss as a sign to improve his taijutsu and his strength. Han responded. He was good though. His poison is really effective. I'm still dizzy actually. Hinata told them, defending her opponent. Oh, I know, his poisons are great. Honestly, he will probably end up surpassing most poison users once he gets more experience. He just needs to improve his other skills. Han clarified. Good job out there yourself, by the way. Kuratsuchi told her. Oh, and the poison will fade off in about 5 minutes. Roto wouldn't use any of his long-lasting or lethal stuff on a friend of his. Hinata smiled and was about to respond when the screen lit up again. All eyes focused on that as everyone awaited the next match. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.